Hello, ladies and gentlemen, I suppose. My name is Aladdin. Today's stream is all about getting callers to share their thoughts. We're looking for ex-Muslim women because typically we don't see them platformed as often as ex-Muslim men, or ex-Muslims in general aren't that platformed. So I thought it would be in the spirit of this space to host a stream just for the ex-Muslim women. And I already have a couple of people waiting to join the stream, so I'll take them in order. And we're also going to be reading some of the live chats. So if I can't get to them in the middle of the conversation, I might read them after the conversation. And I'll also get to a few comments from social media posts where the girls or women could not join. So they wanted to share their story that way in a comment. Anyhow, without further ado, let's begin by talking to Leen. I'm going to add her in 3, 2, 1. Hey, Leen, how's it going? Your mic is muted. You gotta unmute that. Still muted? Okay. So Leen is still muted for a second. Let's see if there's anything we can read from the comments. Okay, audio is good. That's good to know on one side at least. Um, oh, now we're getting callers joining. Awesome. Seems like YouTube only notifies people when the stream actually starts. Okay, so Lean's audio is still not working. So I will add Jana next, I suppose. Jana, if you're ready, if you're hearing this, I'm adding you in 3, 2, 1. Hey, how's it?
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Awesome. Hi everyone. I'm Jana. I'm a trans Muslim, trans ex-Muslim woman slash non-binary person, who is currently living in the Middle East. I don't know what background or like intro would suffice about me.
Oh, as
As
much as or as little as you'd like to share. I mean that's that was a good introduction. Yeah,
Thank you. Well,
yeah.
I've been socially transitioning since I was 16. I've been medically transitioning since I was 19, and I'm currently like now perceived as a woman. So I think I have some like unique input about um, you know the differences between like men and women um, in Muslim society.
Okay.
Um, yeah, as hold on one second. Uh, I lost the stream, but
That's okay. Do you have it open on YouTube, you mean? Or
I just opened it again.
okay.
Um, and yeah,
Well,
I
yeah,
didn't.
that would be a very interesting perspective because you told me you have the perspective of how it was on the other side of things as well. So yeah, we would like to hear from you.
Mm. And I would also like to say like that my perspective is like obviously not containing like all perspectives. Like I haven't lived as a woman like at a young age, at least like not in society wise. Um, and like my perspective is gonna differ from like other trans people perspectives. So is there like any particular area that you want me to like start in at, or like talk about maybe my history with like religion?
No, it's whatever you would like to talk about. Obviously, I understand a lot of it would have to do with the religion, but whatever you feel like sharing, good, bad, anything that's been on your mind. So feel free.
Mm. Um, yeah, so some background stuff about religion as well. Um, I've lost. I've stopped being Muslim ever since like 2012 when there was like a whole wave of um and like atheist YouTube going around, and at that stage, like I was like watching it, and unfortunately, like I was an edgy atheist at the time. Um, and I used to like go to my school like every day, like debate my friends about it, and surprisingly, they s- they actually were like more upset about me like arguing about religion than me being queer. Um, and
That's interesting. Okay.
yeah. So obviously, because like if you're like I'm attracted to men, and at the time, like I didn't like quite realize I was trans until like I was like 16. So I was presenting as like a gay male to my friends,
Hmm.
and trying to be like more coherent with my thoughts. It, to
That's okay.
them, it's it was worse not believing anymore, because like then you would like go to hell forever than being um, a gay Muslim who's just gonna like burn to in hell for like a while before like getting out.
It's weird how yeah, how that's rationalized. Yeah.
And like I guess like some general differences in like experience. If you're male in the Middle East, or like male in general, I don't know how much this applies to like other males. You're more invisible to like a lot of people. Um, like you don't get as much like scrutiny um, than others. But like if you're female, you like there's like issues with like catcalling, strangers like trying to like come into your like business and stuff. And in the past, I was like quite as like gender non-conforming male, so actually like I've like been catcalled like even then. Um, and in some ways, like I experienced like worse violence as a gender non-conforming male than um, a woman. It's like surprisingly. Um, and I think like that goes to show like that gender nonconformity is um like rights are like worse in the Middle East than in other places. Um, yeah, you have like
Was it by people who knew about it, or was it just based on your appearance or how you carried yourself?
yeah. So it bullies definitely like knew before I did about like me being queer. There's like a joke about this, like bullies know like what slur to call you before like you even like figure it out yourself.
Hmm.
um and I have like no idea how they do it, but like they're able to like pick up that like something is different about you. Um and I grew up in like a very poor background. Like I have like a poor family, so I was in like low tier private schools growing up until like seventh grade, when like I got into like government school, and that's when like the bullying just became like really intensive. Um, Especially like the older grades, like um 10th grade and like um senior and like freshman year. Actually, freshman year, senior year was like not that bad.
I'm sorry to hear that. Yeah.
Uh, it's fine.
Hmm.
I mean, I've grown despite it. So it made me a stronger person.
Hmm.
Um, and yeah, um, I'm having like a hard time continuing this like line of thought, because I'm like also not used to public speaking.
That's okay. Um, I don't want you to feel nervous or recall things that are too distressing. So if there's something else that you want to switch to, feel free. Or if you need to take a moment, that's fine as well.
Um, I guess like an interesting thing as well is the difference between like men and women is after like I started like being perceived as a woman, people are more up in my business for um, the better and the worse. Like I recall this like very specific experience. I was like sitting outside my house in the hallway area, in the common hallway area. I don't know like oh, what the transition of this in Arabic is. Um,
Yeah, in the hallway, I guess. Yeah.
yeah, and
Oh, you
one
mean
neighbor, like,
inside the apartment? Oh, like outside the apartment. Yeah, the hallway in the building. Yeah.
yeah, the stairs of the apartment building.
Hmm.
And one like neighbor like saw me like sitting there, and he made like quite a like ruckus about me. Um, like I was just sitting and I told him like I was waiting for a friend, but he like didn't believe that. He
Like,
kept
what
on
was he
insisting that I
objecting
was in
to?
trouble.
Like,
Well,
what
he
was the
was,
problem?
I guess, like women in my specific country, like um they can't really like hang out alone. Like something must be wrong. Um, like
Like, what
he
kind of
kept
thing would
insisting.
he suspect of you? That's what I don't understand.
Well, he like for sure was like suspecting that I was like experiencing domestic abuse or like relationship abuse or
Okay.
like something.
Okay.
Yeah, and he kept asking like if I'm hiding from someone, like why am I here, and like questions like that. And I was like kept telling him repeatedly that I was waiting for a friend, and then like he kept asking about like who my family is and stuff. And obviously like I didn't I was like getting like really aggravated with him, and this was also like dangerous for my own family because they don't want me to um get clocked. And like what that means to like the non-trans people in the audience is like basically like found out that you're trans. So
Hmm.
I and my mom is like especially like um persistent about this point that like if I go around the neighborhood like that's like close to me, I have to like dress as masculinely as possible, like hide my hair in a hat, wear like masculine clothes, and like try to like deepen my voice, um, just so like in case I ever like um, in case like I ever get clocked, and that like hasn't happened like yet, um it wouldn't like relate back to my family. So having a neighbor that is like very close to my family ask like who what is my business like in this building and like who my family is. I can't really like tell him, oh, I'm from like from this family, because then they'll be like, okay, I didn't know they had like a daughter of like this age like living with them.
Hmm.
um so things escalated and I was getting like more upset with him, and he was like getting more upset with me. And he threatened to like call the police, and then that's when like I booked it. I like left the home, and um I was like, fuck it, I'm just sorry for cussing, but
That's okay.
I was like, whatever the consequences are, I'll just deal with them when they come. And uh, my father like called him and um like told the neighbor like I'm from our side, but like, not specifically like their daughter.
Hmm.
um and that's the situation resolved. So like that's like kind of like the male ownership of you if you're like in a negative sense. But I've also like had like a lot of times where I was just hanging out in public just on my phone, like waiting for like a ride or something, where I also like had like people like very kindly and like very kind strangers like ask me like if something was wrong, like and if I'm like experiencing any sort of trouble. And it, it just goes to show that, like, this concern for women, um it can be like in a kind way or like in a controlling way, I guess.
I'm well. First of all, I'm really sorry that you have to, um, mask it that way. I suppose to not get noticed. Yeah, I can't imagine how difficult that must be. And I get what you mean about being noticed. I can't help but feel like it's more harmful than a double-edged sword too, because the reason why people are concerned, right, and they're checking in on a random woman is because there's a very real danger of just her being alone, or that she could be in danger. Um, that's kind of a result of the reality of how women are treated in that area, I suppose. Um,
Mm.
but it is good that it balances out, to some extent, the negative attention as well. But I hope that at some point women would be, viewed just like a man down the street. A woman would be walking down the street, and it would be a similar thing. Um, but yeah, till then, um, I hope that you feel more comfortable in your transition. If you don't mind me asking, how does that feel? Do you feel more comfortable than when you were acting as a gay man?
Well, like, yeah, like for sure. Um, I never really like ever related to like masculinity. I never felt like it was a label that fit me. Um, and ever since like I started like transition, and specifically like medical transition, like I've never like been happier about my body and like more confident in it. Um, and like really like it changes like everything. Um, like even mental state, like it's because I think the way, at least for me, testosterone affects the brain versus like estrogen affects the brain is um like really different.
Hmm.
Like you're way more emotional. You're like there's like the fogginess of like testosterone like kind of like just goes away. um like you cry more easily, and not to mention like all the different like body changes, like getting weaker. Like nowadays, in the past I used to like do karate, and like I used to like um be like pretty athletic, but like
Hmm.
nowadays I'm like, I notice I'm significantly weaker, um because of like differences in like my bone density and like my muscle strength, and like that's is slightly worrying as well.
Yeah, I can imagine that would be worrying. Um, do you have anything that you would like to ask of other ex-Muslim women? Um, do you feel like you have a community of ex-Muslim women?
Certainly not. Like there's no community of like Muslim trans women, like Muslim like ex-Muslim women that
Hmm.
I know of. um and it's again like really hard to like regroup around that, since like it kind of like places a mark on your back. And
Hmm.
like personally I found religion to be a fight that I respect, like all the people who like talk about like ex being like Muslims and stuff, but like for me it seems like a fight that like isn't winnable. um and there's also like a part of me that is like, I don't really like want to change the people around me opinion about like it's trying to like convert them into like being Muslims or anything. Because one, like religion does have like some benefits. Like my mom is benefited like in a good way by religion, and I don't want to like take that away. I just want people to change the bigoted things about religion.
Well, I couldn't help but notice that when you're thinking about an ex-Muslim community for women, you're simultaneously thinking about how you don't want to convert people around you. But those two things don't have to be the same thing. I mean, all you would be looking for is acceptance within a community and acceptance from Muslims. And I think that we should push for that. It's not about changing their mind to join our side. It's about them accepting that, we're among them. Um, so I found that interesting that that came to mind at the same moment for you. Um, and if there was an ex-Muslim women community, what would you want it to look like, or what would you think it would look like?
Mm, I didn't. I don't think. Um, First of all, like, thank you for like catching that thought and like pointing that out to me.
Mm.
And I don't think it would like necessarily like look much different than society about like ex-Muslim men. Like maybe having like more emphasis on the experiences Muslim like women go through, and having like resources that like deal with domestic abuse and that kind of stuff, like and like patriarchal oppression as well. Like those things would be nice, but aside from like those regards, I don't see how it would be different from like a society for like ex-Muslim men.
That's a good point. How would it be different? I mean, in that sense, you would want it to feel, you would want it to feel similar to how men feel in terms of comfortableness. Which, again, all ex-Muslims aren't really comfortable having a community out in the open yet. But at some point, I hope that we will. I don't think that it's hopeless. I think it's very slow. I think that it seems hopeless at the moment, or maybe even hopeless if it comes to thinking about the people immediately around us. That may actually be hopeless, but I try not to focus on that, and I think about maybe even a generation down the line, or maybe in my lifetime at some point, maybe gradually. But I understand that not everyone has to participate in this kind of fight, or movement, even if you don't want to call it a fight. Um, a lot of us just want to, get by and survive and have a happy life with those around them. Um, and I hope that we're able to do that without having to, get into antagonistic positions. Um, if I'm able to do something, like, I don't mean to, wrap up this conversation. If there's anything else you want to add, feel free to add it afterwards. But I wanted to ask you, like, to kind of bring it all together. If there's something that you would like to see prominent ex-Muslim figures and myself do to facilitate having such a community or these resources, what would that be? Or do you have any ideas for that?
Um, well, I definitely think like this live stream is, and the thing you're doing of like centering more marginalized people like voices is like extremely good. And like you gotta show people there can be like ex-Muslims of like all varieties, like the disabled ex-Muslims, trying to think of like other identities, like ex-Muslim from like different places in the world,
Mhm.
and like so on. I can't really like seem to have
Well, that's
Marjorie's
why
comment.
they should be representing themselves, right? I mean, that's why it should be. I mean, that's why we hope to include as diverse of a group of ex-Muslims as possible in these kind of talks. Because I, off the top of my head, can't even think of every different type of ex-Muslim. What does that even mean? There's so many, so much variety in people in general. So, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. Thank you for saying that. I'm glad that you like this stream.
of course. Yeah, I'm gonna head back, and
Mhm.
I'm very curious to like hear what other like ex-Muslim women have to say about all of this.
Yeah. Well, thank you very much for joining. I know you were nervous to join, and I hope that you felt more at ease as the conversation went along.
Yeah,
Yeah. Well, take care, Jenna, and we'll talk to you later.
thank you. You too.
Yeah. Bye. All right. So I'm sorry if anybody heard any noises. Those are my cats making a bit of a mess around me. That's why I had to turn off the camera and the mic every now and then. I don't know if you can see the tail in the frame. Not really. Okay, there it is. Anyhow, thank you everyone for listening to that. We still have a lot of callers in the private chat, a lot more than I expected actually. So I'm going to. I saw a couple of comments, like this comment from Mango saying, "I'm an ex-Muslim woman too. I would have loved to join, but I'm not in a safe position to talk." Yeah, I know there's a lot of callers who or people who wanted to call, but unfortunately, it's not safe for everybody. However, if you do want to share something like this, leave a comment under the video when it's done, when the live stream is over, not in the live chat. A comment that I would include in the next live stream, possibly. That way you can join with your story. All right. And next, I'm taking the caller. So there's a caller. The first one, unfortunately, couldn't join. So we're taking the next one, which is AischaKnew. AischaKnew, I'm adding you in 3, 2, 1. Oh, that was the wrong one. Sorry, one moment. Something switched. Hey, Aisha, how's it going?
Hi, can you hear me well?
I can hear you, yeah.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. Well, thank you for hosting this, first of all, and this is very
Of course, yeah.
important. The reason I'm gonna go a bit, I don't want to sound aggressive, but I have to clean the house after, so that's why. So my goal with this is to normalize talking about being an ex-Muslim. I would have loved to show my face, not fully. I would have worn my mask, but I was literally just on the phone with my best friend.
Hey, are you there?
It's like a duality because I don't want to live a double life. Yes, I am. Can you hear me?
Sorry, your audio cut out for a second. Can you repeat that?
Sorry about that.
After the talking to your best friend?
I asked for advice for her, from her, because I wanted to show my face, but at the same time, it's a bit too new for me because I've been out for 6, 7 weeks, let's say, and my goal with this is to normalize being an ex-Muslim, just like it's normal for people to be ex-Mormons, Christians, etc. I think we've reached a point with Islam where it should be normal. That's all. So again, how, as a Jana asked, how would you like to lead this?
Sorry, it's cutting out. Are you asking me how I would like to make that happen?
Yes, in a way. How would you like to make that happen in terms of normalizing being ex-Muslim?
So, I mean, that's part of the purpose of this channel, and I do have that, I think, in the About section. And since the beginning, my approach hasn't been just one specific thing because I'm trying to figure it out as I go as well. And part of it, I think, is just making any sort of content about it that's not necessarily the most antagonistic out there. I think that's it's not really made to change people's minds per se. It's not really targeted at Muslims to be like, hey, let me get you out of Islam. But the more that they see us talk in a bunch of different ways, a bunch of different topics, the more that they're gonna just expect it to happen, the more that they're gonna start to realize it's normal. Just like there are channels about other religions as well. And those channels, if anything, people would argue are more casual about it. It's less urgent of a topic to talk about, even in many of those cases. So I think that's one way, just exposure to any sort of like videos that I make. But another is having live streams where I have Muslims actually call in, and I've had a lot of conversations with Muslims where it's the purpose is to try to get them to express their beliefs in words, and other types of believers as well. And I think when they see that conversation happening, when they see themselves included in on one side or the other, or they can see themselves, for example, having that conversation with somebody like me, they might have it in real life, and it starts that process. So I think that's kind of my approach so far. What do you think? Are you there?
Okay, that's
There might
great.
be a bit of
Thank
a
you.
delay.
Yes, I am. Can you?
Yeah.
Okay. So how about I maybe share how I guess left Islam? It still feels weird to say this.
Sure.
So I noticed abusive relationships in my family, and I could not understand how come all the women in my family were involved in in toxic relationships. I live in Canada, and we have laws that protect us. And I, I was not part of a very conservative Muslim family. My parents were are westernized, but there were things that simply didn't add up. And one of them was a family member who is extremely antagonistic. Um, all, and that person always lies. They steal. They even steal from their own. He stole from his own daughter. And one day I saw him praying, and I thought, this guy is going to go to heaven. Like, he's going to make it. Like, and where my, and my and his wife, she believes in Islam. She's Muslim. She tries to do things properly, and she's suffering from that relationship. And I'm thinking, well, technically this guy is going to heaven. And then the YouTube algorithm, I guess, knew better than me, because giving me video suggestions about Islam, but I never to click on it because.
Hey, sorry, your audio is cutting out again. Can you go back to the part where you said YouTube started giving you suggestions for videos about Islam?
Other part of.
Yeah, because I think your internet keeps cutting in and out.
Oh, okay. Oh, sorry about that.
That's
what
okay.
about now? Is it okay?
It's good now, yeah.
So, okay, good. So what I did is I started to.
Hey, it's still cutting out again, unfortunately. Are you there, Aisha? Well, I think it's cut out now. I'm going to take you off the call momentarily. If you're still hearing this, you can come back after the next caller. If you're able to go to an area with better reception or be closer to your Wi-Fi router, if that's the case, please give that a try. Because yeah, it keeps cutting in and out. And I will add you after the next caller. So yeah, I'm taking the next caller on the list. That will be Leen. Leen, I'm adding you in 3, 2, 1. Hey, Leen, how's it going?
Hello.
Hi.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Sorry about the other one. My family came in, and I'm still not out to them. So
Sorry, your mic is a little. It's a little noisy. Do you have a different mic that you could use, perhaps?
Is it still noisy?
When it's silent, when you're not saying anything, it gets a little noisy.
I don't know what's the problem. I think it's my computer being old.
Okay. Yeah, there's a lot of static. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't have.
Sorry, 1 second. It's getting really bad. Yeah, try plugging and unplugging your headphones for a second. And we'll try again.
Did it work?
Yeah, that sounds better now.
Oh, okay. I'm glad.
Oh no, it's back. Sorry.
Okay.
Yeah. Is there any chance you have another pair of headphones or something? Yeah, try twisting the plug around a little bit. Well, how about this? I'll take you off the call momentarily. Try the settings on StreamYard and test the microphone. That may work better. And I'll add you back after the next caller. Sorry about that. Lots of technical difficulties, and yeah. Aisha, I'm gonna give it another try, I suppose. Okay, problem fixed, she says. 3, 2, 1. Hey, Aisha.
Hi there. Sorry about that. should be fixed. So I'd like to precise, I left Islam not just because of one bad person. It was gradual. It's it's related. It's like a puzzle, basically. I have been through abuse, in my family, and it's not to depict, my parents as bad people. I think they're good people with bad habits, bad behaviors that cannot be fixed, or it cannot be fixed if you follow something that is a lie. And again, it's a puzzle to me. It was, I watched the Jordan Peterson podcast with Mohammed Ijab, and after watching it, I thought to myself, and at the time I was still Muslim. I thought to myself, Islam is the truth, but Mohammed Ijab makes it look so bad. He's very aggressive in his demeanor. He's justifying through God's words and stuff like that. And I thought there's no room for the individual. So it's not just about one person in my family who are, I'm sorry to say this, but to me, they act in a way that it's cancerous. It's antisocial. You cannot build a life with someone who lies and who steals from the people that care for him. And then I realized also, it's my life experience. I realized, how, I was involved in a pyramid scheme, if you will, and that was I was very naive and vulnerable at the time. But then again, I couldn't understand. Oh well, how is it that so many people can get involved in those schemes, in the pyramid scheme? And I felt very stupid about that. But when you look at the numbers, you realize so many people get involved, and it makes, there's so many victims of that the number never stops. Like those schemes will always exist. And I translated that with religion to a certain point, and I went on a Reddit forum, Exmuslims. I decided to look on the other side of Islam, because you're not allowed to critique Islam. It's very totalitarian. It's the truth, and that's it. And if you don't believe in that, you're going to hell. And then I went on the other side of the fence, and that's when I allowed myself to be critical about Islam. And the second I saw how the prophet, I don't want to call him a prophet because he's not, he's a con artist. The second I saw that he was a cult leader, the second I understood that, I could no longer accept Islam as the truth. And I mean, I don't want to sound too serious, but it's like that South Park episode. South Park helped me a lot. It's that South Park episode when they make fun of Joseph Smith, the Mormon. And I laughed at that episode. I laughed so much at that episode that I thought, oh, how can people be so stupid and believe in that? And then I thought to myself, wait a minute. After when I started to question Islam, I thought to myself, well, if I make fun of Joseph Smith, well, I'm a hypocrite, because what's the difference between him and Muhammad? And I'm someone who always, I always look at both sides of a story. But the only time I didn't do that, it was with Islam. And it's just to show, it's part of my personality. It's who I am. You can ask my friends, if you tell me, don't do this, I want to do it. I want to do it just to see how it is. But I couldn't do it with Islam because of the indoctrination. You're told from a young age, you're going to go to hell and you need to fear Allah. I mean, you have to believe in the prophet. You have to love him more than your own family. Like, no, I'm not going to do that. Why? My mother gives me food. My father is very, I mean, as I said, there's abuse in my family, but you cannot live a life of truth if you apply the doctrine of a con artist. So
You know what's
Anyhow,
funny is I can relate to that part about like you said that you saw it on a South Park episode. To be honest, I haven't really watched that show, but I was watching a documentary about cults one day, and I've been interested in them kind of since. And I was watching one also about MLMs and so on, and people were saying how you don't have to be unintelligent to fall for this. Very intelligent people fall for these schemes all the time. And it clicked in my head at some point. I mean, I've had my doubts at that point, and I've really had a lot of questions since a long time ago. But there's still that voice in your head that fear, that you haven't figured it out. It all makes sense. You just haven't figured it out. And when I saw that, it was one of those moments that it clicked in me that I realized how silly is it what they believe, right? It doesn't seem to make sense to me at all. And then I realized that's kind of just a mini version of what I believe or what I'm supposed to believe. So
yes,
yeah, yeah. It's like that
absolutely. You mentioned
exposure of like
MLMs. I
similar
didn't.
ideas, like the exposure to those ideas outside of your own and realizing the similarities. That's all you need to get you out of it.
Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely. You said MLMs, and if my camera was on, but I can't have it on because you know the whatever. Um, I have a huge smile on my face. I said MLM, I said pyramid schemes, but I meant MLMs. But I didn't want to antagonize people that are involved in MLMs. But yes, MLMs are a scam. Thank you. I'm gonna say it. And
Yeah.
when I realized that there's billions of Americans that are involved in MLMs, I thought, wait a minute, how is it that people are involved in such a big scheme? And then months later, I realized, no, wait, there's a bigger one coming up. It's called Islam. So, and the thing is, the most difficult is to see your parents that are, my parents are getting older, and they're still part of that. They're wasting their last years. Let's put it this way, or, praying and being trying to be the best Muslim as they can be. But at the same time, when you hear people talking about jihad and terrorists, my parents are the first one to say this is not acceptable. This does not represent Islam. And now I feel like a part of me wants to tell them, well, no, actually, it is Islam. That's actually Islam. What you guys are practicing is not Islam. And you were referring to a reconciliation, like how can we move forward now? Because, well, now I'm solution oriented, and we don't want to antagonize Muslims. I have no issues with Muslims, absolutely not. My issue is with someone who died 1400 years ago, so, or whatever, like died, or 14 years, whatever. Like this guy, his narcissism is the is you can see his narcissism through the Quran. You can see it through the hadiths. It's so obvious. And it's I thought it's not that I thought I was not indoctrinated. I thought, oh, I
Mhm.
live in Canada. I grew up here, and I'm fine because I went to to a good school. Even my friend and I, during COVID, we thought we saw we would approach the issue from different angles, and I've never done that with Islam,
Mhm.
because you're told from a young age it's perfect. And it's like my
Like
group of friends are
Christians
looking
don't
at
do
me and
that
they're like,
with
well,
most
you
of the
know
time they don't do that with their own religion either, right? Like that's everybody when they're in an idea from that early on, when everyone around them seems to be doing it or agreeing with it, it's easy to just fall for that and not notice. So yeah, I hope you don't blame yourself at all for that, because I know some people do. I'm not implying that you do, but I hope not.
well, sometimes some days are better than others, let's put it this way. But I'm on a learning curve. I woke
Mhm.
up now. 30 years later, it's all good. At least it's not better late than never. So yeah, but I'm laughing about this. But now I cannot, I can't help but think, of all the women and men also who died in terrible conditions, and also Muslims or ex-Muslims that are in terrible conditions now, because I have the luxury as a Westerner to talk about that, to speak about it. And I think the responsibility is to move forward with this. And but so yes, it's the I would say education. Watch South Park. Like, oh my God, please watch South Park. Like, really, like it sounds stupid, but
That's all the education you think
well,
someone would need?
no. What I meant is get an education and watch South Park on the side.
Right.
Because
Right.
the reason I say this is because, and I mean this seriously, South Park make fun of everything. And the second you cannot make fun of something, I want to make fun of it. And it's a dichotomy with the prophet that I had back then, because I thought, well, if you're telling me not to laugh about him, I really want to now, but I couldn't. And anyhow, so what I'm saying is, let's stay awake. If someone tells us you can't do this, and it doesn't seem very logical, and it seems more indoctrination than anything else, then it's but again, I wish I could speak more profoundly and precisely, but I'm still gathering my thoughts, as you people can hear, I guess. But that said,
That's okay.
thank you
It's a
for
process. Yeah.
yes, thank you for the work that you do. Thank you so much,
Happy to
and
help.
thank you.
Yeah, of course. Thanks for joining us today, Aisha. Take care. All right. Before we get to the next caller, I want to address some comments because I could choose to just block them right away, but I'd like to bring attention to this kind of rhetoric. So there's a couple of Muslims in the live chat, and like I've said before, Muslims are more than welcome. I'm just highlighting, where they're coming from, though. One of them is talking about, there's J Meh is saying that's why the majority of these speakers are hypocrites. They do it for the people instead of Allah. Wait, I misunderstood that. I think he's talking about mohajab and so on. Kind of not going to comment on that. This person, though, however you pronounce their name, they just keep writing these comments that typically I don't want to highlight, but I want to show you how not to act. They're just talking about no depth intellectual. What's your research? And he seems to have this narrow understanding of the relevance of an MLM, for example, and he seems to only equate it to how did the Prophet make money off of this, without getting into whatever wars and the war booty. The fifth of the war booty would go to the Prophet and Allah. Without getting into that, he seems to not understand the equivalence here. And if you're this slow, you need to take a moment and take it slow. Don't just react right away in an inflammatory way. That's what I wanted to talk about. Especially that this space is not for you. I mean, if you would like to participate, you're more than welcome. Just be a bit more civil. And I'd like to highlight how if this were a Muslim live stream and we had a Muslim woman right here, right, talking about a topic that's important to her, if she was even crying on stream, Muslims would love that. You wouldn't find anyone saying, well, this talk is not intellectual enough, or something like that. They'd be happy that this woman is comfortable enough to talk about this. They take it as a positive, for Islam. So I would ask you to please behave yourself and have some, perspective here. Act as if you would act this way on your own kind of channels and in your own space. So let's get to the next caller. And the next caller, I believe, oh no, yeah. There's a lot of callers in the private chat, by the way. So Cosmic Cowboy is next. I'm taking you in 3, 2, 1. No, wait a second. I'm sorry. Leen is next. Leen is back. Let's hope that her mic works. Hey, Leen, how's it going?
Hello. I hope
Hey.
it's not noisy now.
No, it sounds better now.
Okay, that's great. Sorry for the technical difficulties. I should probably buy a new computer.
I mean, I'm really sorry to break this to you, but this mic is also acting up.
So is it like static or wait?
Okay.
Does it work
This
now?
one, this sounds a little better. This one doesn't have static, but say something.
Hello?
Yeah, now it's a lot better. What did you do?
Yeah. I just removed the headphone and speaking to the phone directly.
That's the best one so far.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, I've been here before. I don't remember what I talked about, but I know I've been here before. Thank you for letting me in again. I am an a closeted ex-Muslim. I still didn't tell anyone of my family about how I left the religion or anything. And it just like this whole experience is still surreal because not even like 6 months ago I was actually like praying to Allah to like to guide me to the right path and please don't let me become an ex-Muslim and so uh yeah, it's still surreal and I still get doubts like did I do it right? Am I being influenced by Western media? Because it's at least for
Mhm.
women, right? When I say I was like when I say well Islam sounds too unfair to me, the first response I get is you're looking at the West or I don't know the outside and how they're having fun
Mhm.
but they're doing it for the people and they're not doing it for Allah, right? So this is still like this is the response we get. Like I just want things for myself. I'm just like being selfish or I don't know, just wanting the good part of life and etc. Which is like kind of an absurd claim considering that I am not asking for more than what men get. Right? I'm not asking anything more. Like I'm telling you, I don't want a man to spend on me for the rest of his life. I'm a mature adult. I can do it by myself. I don't need a wali and etc. Right? I'm even doing it for you. Like I'm not even benefiting from this more. You know, I'm just trying to look for a way to like establish kind of some kind of equalities. Like I think the only time where a man should be spending on his like on a woman is when she's pregnant or like she's unable to work, right? Which is like should be kind of the same for men, like when men
Well, what
cannot
about when she's
work.
taking like isn't there like a maternity leave or something, for a
Yeah, I
period
mean
afterwards?
depends because like
Mhm.
I've never been in a Western country. I'm kind of more talking about it from a like a general like global
Mhm.
perspective where like maternity leave or like in general it's just like support for women isn't like as good as say
Mhm.
that what like I it's usually like not enough or like not
Yeah,
really.
I get what you mean. You mean so like the guy has to contribute when the woman is unable to because of
Yeah,
these
just
reasons,
like the
yeah.
same when for example a man is sick, the
Mhm.
woman and like the partner should kind of contribute as well. Like this is the only time, at least I'm like being very generous to Muslims, like the argument of how like men should spend on women. So I think the only time it's justified is when like a woman can't physically work or like whether she's pregnant, whether she's that's the only time where I find it justifiable, right? I'm not like necessarily talking about like applications right now. Um, so this was like how I started thinking about things, and it's still like again, it's still the same argument, you just want like you're just being brainwashed by the Western media, etc. And yeah, maybe I am, I don't know. But like I try to compare because, since Islam is truth, it has to stand against criticism and I try to compare these things. I try to look at the West, right? How the women are living there and how women are living here, right? I don't see the better treatment of women here. Like I don't see them generally happy. Than like they say the Western Muslims, they all say about well the West has like depressed women, etc. But then I look at this and like the Middle East and I'm like, well, as much as depressed as they are, because like I don't see any happy women around here. Like I don't see a woman and she's like, wow, I'm so happy because I don't have to work. I've never heard a woman that says that. I've only heard men say it. I never heard any woman say, "Oh, I'm so happy. I can get to stay home all day. I don't have to go." Literally, I've heard no woman say that at all, right?
Mhm.
And it's kind of this kind of anger is also coming. It's kind of being affected by a recent conversation I had with my dad. I was talking about what I'm gonna do after university, and I was like, "Well, I'm gonna move out," and that's kind of when he lost it. Like he was like, "No, you can't. You're not supposed to do it in Islam." And it's like, why, what's wrong with it? I'm not doing anything. I'm not gonna leave you behind. I'm gonna still support you and visit the family. I'm not trying to abandon you. But he was like, no, you don't understand. A woman cannot work like live alone. So like you have to choose either like this place or this place where our family is living. You can't choose other than that. I'm like, well, that's great career choices. I was thinking more like to go to Canada or the US where I can kind of benefit in my career as you know in general, like in my careers and work. I want to work internationally. And he was like, no. And it's not, I didn't say anything new. I always told him that I wanted to travel, I wanted to work, etc. But I think he found the problem when he realized that I'm not just bluffing. I'm actually telling my own thing. Like I actually do want to do things like this. And my dad is just like so frustrating because my dad has traveled into another country and married from another country, right? He traveled alone and studied alone in another country, right? How come he'd say that for his own daughter, right? I just, it's just like, I I love my family, I don't think they're bad people. It's just like, it's, it's just annoying that I can't, religion is just like ruining our relationship. Like we're
Mhm.
not bad people. My dad is not like a bad person. My mom's not a bad person, but religion is just like unnecessarily creating problems that shouldn't even be a problem, right? Because and then it's ruining our relationship. Right now, like I will get to a point where I have to choose between my family and my future, right? And it's just not easy. Like even if I get like freedom, etc., it's not just easy getting rid of people who supported me and who helped me, etc. Like, I'm actually I when I got accepted into the university and I'm about to give a speech, right? But since I decided to not wear hijab outside, like when my family is not looking, I can't even tell him that I was able to get a good like grade or good application to the point that they invited me to give a speech in like at the opening ceremony. It's just like he would be definitely proud of me, but I can't even tell him because he's gonna get mad about seeing hair in public, and I even have to worry about not him being at the wrong time on the YouTube because it's gonna be live on YouTube. Like even though it's gonna be like I'm gonna go on for like what a minute, I'm still like worried. Oh no, what if he's gonna find out? And just like creating unnecessary problems. It's just making it harder to love him, to support him, to it's just making me forcing me to make a choice, and the choice that I'm not ready to make, and I don't want to make. I don't want it to get a point where I have to just like sacrifice my family just so I can live my life. And I'm not even trying to, like, I don't know, drink alcohol. I don't know, dress miniskirt. It's I literally dress as like normal, just like, oh well, my hair is showing, sometimes my arms. It's not. I'm not even
There's no
like I
shame
don't.
in that though. Like showing your hair or your arms, like you
Yeah,
shouldn't
but
feel bad
like
about that at
he
all.
does.
I
Of
know.
course,
Yeah.
like even if you walk around in bikinis, I don't think there's any shame with that. But
Hmm.
it's just like his fear of me getting like westernized, me getting like, I don't know, um what is, like they say it in Arabic, قليلة adab, right? It's like not proper, not
Hmm.
not like
Low on
um
manners or low on
yeah, no
yeah.
manners. And like he also like he found a message I wrote about the SAT exam. I was helping a guy friend in an exam, right? And he was like, "Why are you talking to him? I thought you left school." I'm like, I am literally talking about exams. It's we're not gonna have sex, okay? We're not
Mhm.
going. We're not like, I don't know, kissing each other. Don't freak out. All we're doing is just I am helping him with the SAT exam. Like this is all like it's just so everyone's so paranoid about everything in Islam, and it's just they're good people that like I don't understand what I'm supposed to do, what I'm and I don't like. I understand some women go through wars. I know there are women who get beaten up. There are women who get killed, right? Leaving your family behind, like that's kind of a privilege for some women, and that's even like that's even more concerning, right now. My dad is I know my dad is not going to beat me or like try and kill me, but that should be given, like that shouldn't be a privilege, right? It just like
Mhm.
imagine if a Christian girl was killed by her parents, right, just because she converted to Islam. The Muslim community that would uproar against this horrible crime, which it is, right? It is a horrible crime, but then they silently cover up the things. No, it's just not from Islam, not just well, it's influenced by it, right?
Mhm.
Even if there is no specific verse that says so and so, well, these people are influenced by this teaching to do these kind of things, right? Not it's not enough to not say it. It's not enough to not say something. It's not enough to say, well, it doesn't exist. Well, that's not Islam's problem. Well, it is because it's a common Muslim problem, right? There has
Mhm.
to be something in common because it's not just like a cultural thing. They don't give cultural excuses. They give religious excuses, right? This is why like it's not like it's separate. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
so yeah, that's like what I wanted to say, I guess.
Well,
Sorry
how do you
for
feel about that
ranting.
when? No, that's all right. I'm glad that you were able to get it out, and I've had a lot that I wanted to kind of not interject, but I wanted to mention or ask. But I wanted to hear your thoughts to to their conclusion, and to that I'd want to ask. How do you feel when people say that it's not real Islam? Or what do you think should happen in that situation when someone says it's not real Islam?
Well, I don't think well I mean, I don't really like confrontation.
Hmm.
I think there should be an open discussion about this. I understand that there isn't like there are many stereotypes that are given by Western like people or like white people about Islam that's or even Muslims that's not quite true. Like it has some truth to it, but it's not the way they think it is. I think there should be an open discussion about this because it's not a black and white issue. It's a nuanced topic, right? Um, and it's also like it. While I understand like culture, it's not an excuse, but it also has a cultural implication, historical. Like it's something that happens through like history. It's just like it kind of has to do with like also like the honor thing. It's kind of also like an Arab Asian thing too, which is we can see not in Islam. Like honor killings is not unique to Islam, right? So it's just like so many things intertwined in one. We can't just say it, well, it's because of Islam. No, well, Islam has an effect on it, but like we need to figure out how Islam is affecting these people. Like
Hmm.
how is Islam helping, let's say, the honor killing situation, or is it making it worse? Like how the relationship between like the religion and the people that who practice it, and how it's influencing it, even if it doesn't literally say so. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, yeah,
Um,
sorry, I couldn't give a
that's
straight
okay.
answer.
No, that's okay. I wanted to mention a couple of things before I let you go, because what the first thing that you mentioned rang true to me. You were thinking, am I being influenced by the West? You know, is this me being influenced by the West and so on? And even though my experience is different than yours, and it's not really about women's rights that I was thinking about and whether I'm influenced by the West about that, I mean, must have come up at some point, but I was thinking about my views on, like, my questions on religion and things like that. And I just wanted to point out how this is a common tactic to keep people, like, it's kind of thought control. It's a common tactic to keep us in the group, is to make us feel like to doubt our own judgment, for example, to make us believe that it's because of influence. It's not because there's actually a point to it. So and tackling that the way that you did, asking yourself that question and then getting over it, is the best way to address it rather than just ignore it. And I think you've done that. I think you've realized that these are just rights that you should have. It's not really about the West. Just because they have it doesn't mean that you want them because it's Western or something. So yeah, I just wanted to reassure you of that. And you had mentioned that some women, or a lot of women, unfortunately go through even worse. And I know what you mean by that. You might feel a little bit of guilt that you should just be accepting your hardship because some people go through worse. I don't think that you shouldn't feel that way. I know it's difficult to just say, and emotions are not really in your control per se, but I wanted to say, I hope you don't feel guilty about that, because we shouldn't only be addressing the most extreme cases. There's a lot of people in between, and your suffering still matters. Just because, like you said, the bare minimum is not to get beaten up or harmed physically, it doesn't mean that you aren't suffering, right? It doesn't mean that this isn't important. So please feel valid when you do have complaints like these, and you're not alone. There's a lot more people like you who suffer from the same issues, from this conflict between what they want to do and what their family wants them to do, and to the point that it gets in the way of wanting to share something as important as, you know, that speech with your father. And I'm really sorry to hear about that. So yeah, I hope you don't minimize, you know, what you're going through. It's absolutely valid to want that to change for yourself and for other people. And what I wanted to say is, I know you're prioritizing to some extent how your family feels about this. And even if you're not, you still want to have a good relationship with them. You want to keep the peace. You're not trying to cause conflict. And I'm not telling you to go out there and cause conflict, or just, you know, stand your ground and proudly tell them that you're an ex-Muslim. No, you should do whatever is best for you strategically to keep you safe and healthy and well, and to maintain whatever relationship you would like with your family. But look out for yourself and make sure not to let them overstep these boundaries too much. You have to
Yeah.
draw a limit and just keep that in mind for when things get difficult, you know?
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah. Sorry, I didn't mean to, like, be talking at you, but I'm just sharing what I
Yeah,
was thinking when
yeah,
you were
I
talking.
appreciate
Yeah.
yeah, I really like appreciate your platform too. Like, in a way, you're a fresh thing to see in the ex-Muslim community. This is something I've never seen it being done before as much like as you do. Listening to real ex-Muslim people, right? Some people having it harder, some people having unique like experiences that really just like made me more it made me understand other people coming from other like places, having an like kind of a religious, like ex-Muslim platform was kind of an idea I had like in mind too, but the safety and yeah, it's just like it's kind of a dream that I probably will never be able to do, but at least like others are doing it, and I support you from that. Like I hope you succeed in, like even just as a platform, like it's just even as as this platform grows and like even the ex-Muslim community grows, I hope you can be like one of those people who can give a comfort and guidance and stuff to them. So yeah,
Thank you
thank you.
very much for saying that, Leen.
Really,
Thank you.
yeah,
Take
thank you.
care. That was very heartwarming. Thank you, Leen, for the kind words. Yeah, I would love to see such platforms grow in general, and I want to see more ex-Muslim representation. And yeah, I really appreciate her kind words. I don't really know what to say. Before we get to the next caller, there is a couple of chats that I want to get to. Secular Sakai, well, thank you for the super chat. Okay, random question. Could I securely mail you some face masks and or bandanas with atheist and ex-Muslim art designs on them? I know a group that makes some great ones. That would be a fantastic idea. I mean, especially, I don't know if you're saying that you would like me to also promote their artistic work, or if it's going to be anonymous, but either way, sure, we could discuss something like that. Yeah, just reach out to me by email. And thank you again for the super chat. There were a lot of supportive comments. I couldn't highlight them all, but just know, if you scroll, there's a lot of very supportive comments. And Jana was saying that women have a culture of hiding pain as well. So to the point about depression among women in Muslim communities, I think it's clearly higher, but even when it's not that clear, it's difficult to find these statistics, and women have this in the Middle East. I think from what I've seen, they hide these kind of issues because they're familial issues. They're not supposed to be public knowledge. Sometimes it kind of feels like shame on them that they're having marital issues. So yeah, it's not always what it seems. And yeah, there were a lot of supportive comments like these. So thank you, Leen, for joining. And we'll take the next caller now. Let me check who is next in queue. So we're not taking any more calls, but there's how many people in the back? Like 4 or 5 now. So we'll try to get to everybody. So the next caller is, let's see, Cosmic. Well, Cosmic is not here. Okay, then LOL, no. I am adding you in 3, 2, 1. Hey, how's it going?
Hello. Do you hear me well?
Yeah, I hear you fine.
Hi. Thank you. First of all, I wanted to thank you for everything you do. Because it's like so different from all the other ex-Muslim content. I never really related to them, even though they helped me in my journey. But it's like I never found anyone that actually thought like me. So I'm very happy about this, and I hope that you get a lot of views. So basically, I'm not going to give much details about me because I'm closeted. But I just can say that I live in the West, and my parents are from an Arab background. So yeah, they're actually very, very religious, and I grew up very religious. So from an early age, I had all this indoctrination, and I even went to a Muslim school. So even if I lived in the West, I never had contact with any non-Muslim before the age of 12 or 13.
Wow.
So the only things I saw about them was on TV, so it was like they're not really real.
Hey, that's my life, basically, but yeah, not in the West.
So yeah, I mean, they were around me, but it was like so like strange and outside.
They were
so
more of like an outside, like to me, it was just a concept or like on TV. I never
yeah,
actually like
yeah,
met them. I didn't even see
definitely.
them on the bus around me or anything. But anyway, sorry. Go ahead.
yeah, it's exactly this. And I grew up with this idea that they're, just lost or ignorant, and they just didn't find Islam that would make their life so much better. And so yeah, was the idea that was taught. I think most Muslim actually have this education. And actually growing up, I always I was always convinced by Islam as being the truth. And I had some questions sometime in my head, but I somehow just buried them because I didn't want to confront them or didn't have any answers. And the thing is, there were three types of questions, I would say. So there was like the morally type, and then there was like more of a logic type. And after that, I would say it was most of like personal stuff, but this came way later. But sometimes, for example, the first thing I remember that actually somehow shocked me was when I was in Sunday school, but for Muslims. And the I was pretty young. I was maybe 10 or something. And we would talk about terrorist attacks, and the teacher would say that no, it's not Islam. If you kill someone, it's like you killed the whole humanity and stuff like that. And I asked her about if they would go to hell, and she was like, yeah, they would go to hell because they kill people and stuff, and it's not real Islam, blah blah blah. And so I asked her if non-Muslims would all go to hell, and she was like, yeah, you need to be Muslim to go to heaven. And I was like, okay, but what if someone actually was born Muslim and then is not Muslim anymore? Which is funny because I've never encountered this kind of situation, because they would never present that to us. It does not exist, basically.
I didn't think it was possible. It didn't really
exactly.
cross my
An
mind. Yeah.
ex-Muslim it's not possible, because you are so lucky to be in the truth, and you have the truth. So it's just like, yeah. And she was like, oh no, that does not exist. And I was like, yeah, but what if, let's imagine. And she was like, oh, but an ex-Muslim would be killed. And I was like, it shocked me so much, because it was so different from everything that I have been taught, because it's peace and tolerance and all these things. And I was just like, okay. So this was like the first thing that shocked me. And growing up, actually Islamic school do not teach us the dark side of it, I would say. So we Muhammad is portrayed as this perfect man, that is an example, that is loving, that is honest, and all these things. And when I would find out some stuff, it would shock me, and I would try to look for an answer, and I would have an answer, and I wouldn't be convinced, but I would just be like, oh, okay, so that justifies, and I would just go on, lie to myself. For example, of course, marriage with Aisha, and things like that. And I somehow also tried to find some ways to, because time passes and I would be like, no, but it's still not a good thing. And I would just oh, well, then Aisha was not this age, she was way older, and that's it. So I would somehow try to find my way, because I have always been so empathic, and so there was a huge part of humanity in me that did not want to accept some stuff. For example, there was so many non-Muslims around me, and I was like, why would they go to hell? Because they did not believe. It was so weird to me. And then I would be like, well, Allah knows better. I just didn't want to wrap my head around it, but it would come sometimes. And I don't know, it just they keep telling how Allah is fair, Allah is just, and some stuff was just not, it was not proportionate, and it was all black and white. When I think about it, it just didn't make any sense, because as humans we're so complex. And yeah, and I was also very open to other cultures and stuff, and I saw how they say how lucky we are to be born Muslim, and then I was like, okay, then if Allah is fair, then why some people are unlucky to be born Muslim? You know, it's
Thank you.
it's so
Nobody
crazy.
focuses on the unluck part. Like, I don't understand that. Yeah.
Yeah, and I was, for example, I would look at Christians who are so convinced, and I would tell my parents, I was like, you know, but these Christians are like you, scared to go to hell. So why would they convert to Islam and live their religion with the risk of going to hell? So yeah, even if my parents were very religious, they always heard what I
Your
said.
internet is cutting out.
They
Yeah,
wouldn't
can you
tell me
repeat that?
like you shouldn't talk, so this was a good thing. Oh, sorry.
Sorry, it cut out. You were saying your parents what? Shaitan is working overtime today to get in the internet connections of everybody. You know
Do you
what's
hear
funny
me?
is, yeah, I hear you. You said in the beginning that you relate to me a lot, and I'm happy to hear that, because I'm sure like a lot of people will relate to different vocal ex-Muslims, and no one can relate to, you know, not everyone's going to relate to me. So I'm happy to find people who think like myself. But as you were talking about it, I was just nodding along, and I was thinking, yes, that's me. And I realized that's how some people might feel, I guess, when I'm out here talking. So yeah.
Yeah, exactly. That's really that, because we have like there's so many cliches about, you know, now that people accept that ex-Muslim exists and we're not paid by Jews, they're like, oh, okay, so it's
Wait, people have
emotional.
accepted that already? I thought we're
Yeah,
still
but they're
on it.
just like, oh, poor them, you know, like the West like lost them or
Yeah.
something like that. So they're like, they're ignorant, or they're never been taught Islam, or there were, and you know, my story is also enforcing that cliche, because I have been forced to wear the hijab for like since my puberty, and so people would just be like, oh, that's why, you know, that's why you left Islam, because, you know, your parents forced you and you were disgusted and things like that, which is definitely not true. Like, I did not want to wear the hijab, but for more than 10 years I was so convinced of my religion, and I was just like, you know, this is my father problem, it has nothing to do with Islam, because he just didn't do things right. So it's definitely not related. But yeah, so I had these questions, and so a few years ago I discovered a lot of dark stuff in the hadiths, and I just decided to somehow be like, oh, you know what, let's only believe in the Quran. Because, you know,
that's how it starts.
yeah, because, you know, that's, we're sure it's the word of God, and, you know, the hadiths, the authentic, not authentic, and contradicts and blah blah blah. And I was like, it could not be that harmful to believe in the Quran, you know, and we're still Muslims and that. So for the moral part, I just denied the hadiths. But, you know, when COVID hit, I think we were all somehow bored, and so I don't know how exactly it started, but I don't know if I just saw an ex-Muslim thing, or anyway, I just decided to confront some questions, some logical questions this time, and that's how you know, some stuff didn't make sense. But the real thing that actually just made me unconvinced was because I give a lot of credit to science, and I have always been taught, of course, that there were miracles in the Quran and blah blah blah.
Wait,
And
to clarify, you said signs, not science, right?
Science, yeah. Sorry.
Mhm.
So I was convinced that the Quran was perfect and not modified and blah blah, blah, and that a man could not write this. And so when I found mistakes in it, like embryology, for example, is one of the things you cannot just make an excuse about it. That was the point where I was like, well, God makes no mistake. And that was like literally the time I slipped, and I was just like, that's it, I can't believe it. There were so many issues that I could still tolerate and somehow, you know, but science was just like the point where I was like, no, it was the only thing that was holding me. And I know it's holding a lot of people, and a lot of people actually convert because of it. And so it's just like a big scam. And the problem is most people are not educated enough about the science or the Quran, because a lot of people don't understand Arabic, which is also a great thing about you, is that they cannot just be like, oh, it's translation, blah blah blah.
Well, they still call me ignorant and everything, but I don't claim to be a scholar of Arabic, but I can read like what the scholars
Yeah.
have said at least. So
The
there's
tafsir and
that.
all that. Yeah,
You know,
so
that's what you said about when you found out that one mistake. I mean, some people would still argue about it and say that it's not a mistake and so on. But the thing about perfection is, as soon as you find one flaw, right,
yeah, exactly.
it just destroys the whole thing. You don't need a strong, like, multi-point case. All you need is just one flaw.
Mhm.
And if you have like 1,000 of those questionable things, even if you were to find an answer to each and every one of them that's also questionable, like, what does that say? Isn't that really, really suspicious? Like,
Mhm.
I don't, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. It's about the perfection, and I'm sure if they didn't picture it as perfect, that wouldn't make me maybe leave, or I don't know. But it's the fact that it was perfect and there was one
Mhm.
mistake, and that's when I decided, well, let's look at all those so-called miracles, and one after the other, I was like, but this is not what it says. I actually first time read the verses because, you know, I was just watching a video and I was like, oh yeah, mashallah, blah blah. And then I would read for example, for the Big Bang, it's definitely not what it said. So everything is just like a big scam, and you're just like, whoa.
Wait, so
And
they believe in
that's
the Big Bang now? Like, that's the thing. Like,
yeah, like and they said like the skies and earth split, and that's not how Big Bang works. Like,
yeah.
definitely not. And yeah, so a lot of people actually convert because of that, and just yeah. So but you know, the thing is, even though I did not believe it was true anymore, I realized how brainwashing has huge effects, because for months after, I was still scared about hell when I was convinced it was fake. But it's just, I don't know, like, it's, I don't know, maybe trauma or something. But now I'm better. I can say it's like 2 years now, but in the beginning I had this fear of hell, and then I had to be like, no, it's not true, it's not true. But yeah, it has huge effects on us, and even if I don't believe, I'm sure that there's a part of my identity that is based on my Islamic education. So
You know,
yeah.
when people say, like, I think my case is different because I'm talking about Islam and so on, but the average ex-Muslim still, like someone who is not vocal, they're not online, they're not even making comments. Um, are they expected to suddenly just, okay, they don't believe in Islam anymore, therefore let's erase like 20 something years of my life
Mhm.
completely, where I used to do something 5 times a day, and let me just completely forget about it. Let me not care about that whole phase. Let me not care about
Mhm.
people stuck in that phase. Uh, don't you find it so ridiculous that ex-Muslims are expected to just drop the thing that they were supposed to be obsessed with? Like, it's a good thing to be obsessed with Islam as a Muslim, right?
Yeah, sure. I mean, there, because there's not a lot of content about it. I mean, people feel pretty alone and guilty, and they don't know where to go to talk about it. And it's actually it's just very sad, because I remember when I left, I began to search for ex-Muslim groups, for example, and what I found there was a lot of actually Muslim haters, I would call them, who,
Mhm.
that, like, it was the majority of them, and they did not understand us as well. They were just hating, and
Wait, can you
sometimes
point out some of these groups? Like, you don't have to name them, but can you tell me what platforms? Because I'm curious.
Facebook,
Facebook, okay. I've
yeah,
never been on those like groups on Facebook, but I hear things. Okay.
yeah, and which is funny, a lot of them are Christians, and you're just like, bruh, I'm not leaving a cult for another. This is like
Yeah.
stupid, but yeah, anyway. And yeah, you do not find people that can relate. I have non-Muslim friends who support me a lot, but I know that they will never really understand and relate. I also have some friends, for example, who were born Muslim but were not never really practicing, but did not go through the phase where they would question it all. And I have a friend, for example, who is like, she's not practicing, she's maybe not believing, I don't know, but she does not, she's like, oh, you know, Islam has no issues and things like that. So
Just
it's
repetitive
also
stuff.
yeah.
Yeah.
So it's yeah, you do not find a lot of people that can support and relate. And yeah, I just, that can tell you it's okay, it's normal to feel the way you do, and you're not supposed to, like you said, just throw it away, and accept it's a part of your identity, it's a part of your story. And that's okay. I mean, your whole family is still Muslim. That's you should not just separate from it.
I mean, if you'd like to, you should. If you could, if you should. It really depends on the personal situation. But in many situations, especially if things don't turn sour, or
Mm-hmm.
if we don't want them to turn sour, then what's wrong with continuing to have a life with Muslims around us? But unfortunately, that conflict is always there,
Yeah, sure.
and it's starting from one side, not the other, in most cases. And when I see ex-Muslims lashing out, it's usually that they're like, imagine this, like you wake up and the sky is actually purple and everyone around you is telling you the sky is blue. And you're like,
Mm-hmm.
guys, do you not see that the sky is purple?
Yeah.
And not only that, you're called names for it. You're like vilified for that. So I understand why some people would turn into like blue sky haters, I guess. They'd be like,
Yeah,
all these
sure.
idiots,
I understand. Honestly, I
Yeah.
understand. But
No, I'm not
it harms
excusing them,
them.
by the way. No,
But
I'm
I think
saying
it
that
harms
like
them
if they
more.
have communities where they see themselves as normal,
Mm-hmm.
then there won't be those people who lash out as often, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I think it hurts you more to be hateful. That's because I was angry in the beginning, and I'm still angry because Islam is a source of, like other religions, but it's a source of a lot of suffering. And I can say it to my family, and I can say it to my life. And I wish it didn't had that much weight. But yeah, I think it causes you more harm to be angry about it than to just somehow make peace and try to. I know it's easier to say than do, but I mean,
Yeah.
what can you do? I mean, I'm closeted. My family doesn't know anything about this. But what made it easy is that I moved out, which was really hard for my dad to accept.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, the thing I still struggle with is the future, because as a woman, I have to marry a Muslim. And so I don't know. I mean, I have no one in my life, but I'm like, if that happens, what am I going to do? Because I do not want to be hypocrite and lie about it and ask my partner to act Muslim. But in the same time, it's not more that I fear for me. It's just that I do not want to hurt my mom. And like Leen said earlier, to have to literally sacrifice your family. And yeah, it's really hard. So some of those things are just harder for women because a man can just marry a non-Muslim, right? So we're always going to be stuck in this. So
I mean, a lot of them end up getting in those relationships where, in one way or another, they ask the person to convert on paper, or sometimes, unfortunately, it turns into pressuring them to act the way that culturally they're expected to, not just, just call it a Muslim on paper. But obviously, a woman has even less agency than that. And even in that example, where the ex-Muslim is a guy, the conformity is also being done to a woman, right? A non-Muslim woman at that in that case. So it's unfortunate, and obviously every case is different. So I can only wish you luck, and I hope that you make the best decision for you. Just don't ever like get into a relationship that just to please the family. It's never gonna work.
No. That's like, that was always a big no. And my mom is supportive about this. Actually, my mom has always been more open and also empathic. And for some questions, she would just turn a blind eye. But she's the kind of person that needs faith to go through life. And I just don't want to, take that away from her. But yeah, she's always supported me. Even with the hijab, she was against it. But I think telling her I'm ex-Muslim would be like the limit I can't cross. So I hope that there would be a way to work things out. But yeah, thank you for what you
thanks
do
for
and
joining.
for having us. It was really nice. And I know you cannot tell your identity and stuff, I understand. But if in a somehow parallel reality you would have meetings or so, I would love to meet you one day. So yeah.
Thank you. I appreciate you saying that. Thank you.
Goodbye.
Take care. Bye-bye. All right. So we've got some comments that I want to get to, and then I'll get to the next callers. I want to get to everybody in the private chat, so we've got 4 left. Hopefully, we're gonna get to everybody, and please don't end the live stream here. I mean, don't turn away. I think everybody's story is important to listen to, so I'll try to be quick in terms of reading the comments. So, yeah, my cat did pass. A poo did pass in front of the camera. You might have caught the tail end of that, pun intended. So there's a commenter called Aladdin's mask with an image of a black mask, and it's kind of tripping me up because I keep thinking I'm not typing anything. Why is my username there? Anyhow, so Mark is saying, I can't imagine Aladdin in any mask except black. It would be blasphemy. That would be very interesting to see if I get those artsy masks. Well, not artsy, artful masks. That would be very interesting. We'll see what that looks like. What else? Yeah, so Roger Vega saying it's been only a couple of decades since the Muslim texts like Bukhari and Muslim and etc. were translated into English and onto the internet. The death knell for Islam. I think that they will have a huge effect. The access to information has begun this wave of apostasy, and it's not that I think everybody's going to leave Islam all of a sudden, but it's definitely helping people realize that there's so much about their belief and their religion they haven't examined, and that they should. Anf Boo, thank you for the super chat. And she says, the problem is, even by being a good, resilient Muslim, Muslims are in fear of the Day of Judgment. Yeah, for some it brings hope, for some it brings fear. Fear of not being good enough, fear of not being able to adhere to these somewhat arbitrary standards. Well, not somewhat, very arbitrary standards. And even doing everything right, you might still go to hell. So, God loves holding that over you. It's pertaining to today's topic, it's like an abusive husband who just tells the wife, if you act right, I won't beat you because I'm such a merciful husband. I'm going to reward you if you act right. And he just like leaves a whip or a belt on the door just to remind her that, he could do it. That's what Allah is like, and a lot of these other gods, to me at least. Especially with their stance on women, that I think that analogy is pretty apt. But if you disagree, especially if you're a woman, please correct me. Couple more comments. Frodo, thanks for the super chat. They're saying, please everyone watch the video Scientific Miracles in the Quran, analysis of Zakir Naik's claims by the channel called The Masked Arab. I absolutely recommend The Masked Arab. Very informative content. He's not around anymore making content, but his videos are gold. So yeah, definitely recommend that. Let's see. A couple more. Aladdin, do you think the West, because Muslims aren't the dominant culture, Muslims pay a lot more attention to narratives about scientific miracles and miraculous prophecies because they feel the need to justify Islam since they recognize that they are the other, whereas in Muslim countries they are the default, so don't feel the need to. I don't have enough data to tell you exactly if it's more often in the West. I definitely see it happen more often because Muslims have to justify Islam to themselves and others. But before the exposure to this whole scientific miracles narrative is not that old. I mean, think about it. How old is science and access to science? If you tout this scientific miracle 100 years ago or like 300 years ago, most of the Middle East, or people in a lot of places in general, wouldn't know enough science to be able to say, oh, wow, that's amazing that Islam knew that back then. So this whole narrative is actually, I believe, less like more recent than 100 years even. But it keeps increasing because, yes, they have to grasp at straws to show others, if you don't already believe, what could convince you. And apparently they think science is one of those avenues, but it's not actually science and it's not actually convincing. So I do think that it's more common in the Western countries. However, we do see this narrative in the Middle East already, like from my point of view, and it is being shut down the same way because I think even Muslims can recognize when something doesn't make sense. But unfortunately, it takes time to get to the minds of the most indoctrinated, the people who grew up in it. So we're taking the next caller. Who was the next caller? Let me see, because I forgot. It would be Amira. So, Amira, if you're ready, I'm adding you in 3, 2, 1. Hey, how are you doing?
Hey, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you fine.
Great. Well, first of all, thank you for this opportunity.
Sure.
And to be able to just kind of voice our opinions as females who have left the faith, because as you can tell that we are all fake and we are all just making things up, to just distort the Muslim community, and nobody leaves Islam because it's so perfect, right?
Yeah. Sarcasm for those who didn't detect it, because we've got some slow people sometimes. But anyway.
Yeah,
sorry, go ahead.
definitely sarcasm. Yeah. So I'm not going to give out my whole background or anything just for security purposes for me and my family. But both my husband and I had left Islam about, I would say now, 2 years ago. And just for my background, I was born and raised in the Middle East, so I do speak Arabic fluently. And so it's hard for people to kind of try to argue with me, because I will take out all my Sahih Bukhari that I have, and I will take out all my Ibn Kathir, and I will just point out to everything and say, well, can you argue with these people? So
How long do you think before they disown Ibn Kathir? Huh?
honestly, right now, with everything that's going on with, I don't know if you follow a lot of the political things that are happening in Saudi Arabia. I'm pretty impressed with what they're trying to do as far as the hadith goes. I don't know about Ibn Kathir, how they're going to try to disown him, or if they're going to try to come up with a new narrative, like a new person who would be the New Age Islam or something.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, like it's pretty interesting what's happening lately, because when I first realized how I felt about Islam, I relate to you in a sense that I broke down. I'm not going to lie. I definitely had a meltdown because it was my identity. It was who I am. I believed thoroughly in it, And the reason why my reasoning behind leaving is definitely a bit different than probably some of the people that are here, because my mom and dad are from different religious background. My dad is Muslim, my mom is Christian. So for me, the battle of growing up in the Middle East and people constantly telling me, well, your mom is basically going to hell, like just put a lot of emotional and mental strain for me growing up, just because, how do you accept that your mom's going to go to hell, So that was like what started it all, but I always justified it by some of the surahs that say, Ahlul Kitab and all that stuff, just to make myself feel good. You know what I mean? But then at the end of the day, I knew what the truth is. Like, my mom's going to hell. You know what I mean? It was not until I had my own children that I realized, like, maybe I need to learn more about this religion. And I have boys. So do I really want them to have some of these, like stigma that comes behind being a man and better than a woman? How are you going to treat your wife, and if you decide to to marry, and stuff like that? That made me more dig into the religion and understand it myself. But I did have my mom in the background, always kind of telling me, like, hey, this is not the right path, or maybe you should look into other things, read other books, look into your own religion, et cetera, et cetera. And as I learned more, as I dug in deeper into the hadith, I did my own research. I wrote a almost 30-page paper for my father.
Wow.
And I still remember his face when I handed it to him, because he kind of knew, like, he knew that I was struggling internally with my faith. But according to everybody in my family, I am his favorite. So it was very heartbreaking. He was very heartbroken by it. Yeah, so he took the paper, he read the paper, but he still tried to justify much of the things that were in there, because again, we are all like indoctrinated into this religion. We are all almost brainwashed by it. So it's definitely a brainwashed cult. And when you step back and you look at the big picture and you're outside the box and you're not inside the box any longer, then you start realizing, how did I even believe in this? Now that I read the Quran from a different perspective, as I'm doing my own research right now into understanding why people believe in this, the more I look into it, the more I think, I don't know. Like, I don't know how I ever believed that this was the truth. It's disheartening that it took me this long.
You know what? No, I don't think you should blame yourself for that or feel bad about it, because it's a testament. I mean, the amount of people who were in the same exact spot, intelligent people as well, who were also tricked that way, who fell for the same things. It's a testament to how it's not your fault. It's not because you didn't do something better. But I'll tell you how I, for example, rationalize a lot of these irrational things that I used to believe. I've always had these questions, but because I was exposed to these stories very young, like when I was a kid, like reading the Quran, the Sheikh would tell me the story about this prophet or that prophet. And like, there were just like talking to animals, there was a jinn doing stuff. It was just such a fantastical array of stories, just like the other stories that I would read from other books, but those are not real. So I had the question, how come we don't see jinn anymore? How come we don't, or at least, okay, jinn is kind of, people would argue that you could talk to jinn, but how come we don't see miracles anymore? How come nobody can talk to animals anymore? And I was told that kind of it all ended with the prophet, conveniently enough. And I was too gullible. I was a kid, so you don't question your parents when they say something like that, or most of us don't. But in my mind, there was this like two halves of the world. This whole mystical world did exist, and it ended before our time, whatever that means. So that's how I understood everything. But of course, that sounds silly when I'm telling it to people now, right? But I like to think that I'm not stupid, but I was still tricked by it. You know what I mean? So yeah, don't beat yourself up about it.
Yeah, it's definitely but I'm glad that there's this platform that brings people together, and just no matter like what path we choose ultimately, whether we choose to become atheist or we become like agnostic or believe that there is a higher power, um whether we decide to become Christian, because that is maybe that would be the path that someone would choose. It doesn't matter, because at the end of the day, what matters to me is that I want people to be accepted for what they decide to choose in their own path. Because you're not going to reach the same conclusion as I might, and I might not reach the same conclusion that you might. But there has to be a point where we can respect each other for the opinions that we have, even though we don't share the same opinions.
I agree.
Yeah. So yeah, I just wanted to know that, I just wanted to tell everybody, you're not alone. To those ladies out there, I know my story is a bit different. My father still struggles with my relationship with him is not great right now. It used to be amazing. I cry about it constantly. But
I'm sorry to hear that.
I'm happy that he's able to accept me no matter what. I mean, he still sends me videos after videos, arguing, against some of the things that I will bring up to him, just hoping that maybe she will come back. And I understand. I understand where he's coming from. He's coming from a very loving place in his heart, and he doesn't want to see his daughter just fall into I don't know, like hell, like he doesn't want me to go to hell. And I think that I respect that about him. And we need to remember that they are humans, and they do love us. And sometimes, even if they're doing something that might be a bit hurtful, it's coming, I feel like it has to be coming from a very loving place where they don't want us to fall off of the horse or the saddle, whatever you want to name it. So yeah, so it's a bit different. I think my story is a bit different just because I had both religious backgrounds growing up, and it was hard growing up because I grew up in the Middle East where everybody would judge us for having a Christian mother. So yeah.
Well, you say your story is a little different, but everyone's story is a little different.
Yeah.
And I think I've spoken to at least one person from a similar background of Muslim and Christian, so you'd be surprised.
That's awesome. I
Yeah.
look forward to hearing
Yeah.
more stories like this to bring people and for them to know that they're not alone, which is what's important, is for us to have a tribe of our own, right?
Well, there are a few questions if you have a couple of minutes to answer. Is that okay?
For sure. Yeah.
And if a question is too personal, obviously, just feel free to say can't answer or don't want to.
Yeah.
Benjamin is asking, who left first? Was it you or your partner, and who convinced the other?
So my partner, he was basically never super religious. He does come from a very religious background. His parents are very devout Muslims. But he was never religious. He also came to the United States when he was a bit older, just like I did. Like, I lived most of my teenage years in the Middle East, and then I came to the United States, or to the West, when I was older for college. So he was never religious, but we always had fights over religion anyways, because I would tell him, you should pray, you should this, you should that, like we should become more spiritual for our children, etc., blah, 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 Yeah, so he was never religious. However, he never pushed me because I was the religious one. But he was pretty happy that I opened up my eyes and saw things differently and looked outside the box. And then we discussed it together. And then together we decided this is how we want to raise our children. So it was kind of mutual, but I think I needed to see it too, for him to kind of be nudged towards that.
Well, that's kind of ironic, isn't it, that you were the one who was more religious?
Yeah, it's very ironic, and I think it's because I speak Arabic. He doesn't, so his background is not. He's not non-speaking Arab, and I think that's why non-speaking. Well, Muslim. I shouldn't say Arab because he's not Arab. Yeah, so I think that's why it was hard for him to become spiritual, because I know you see a lot of the people that come into your channel who are Muslims who don't speak Arabic, and then it's very hard for them to become spiritual because they don't understand the Quran. They're just reading it. Merely just to read it and to receive, those good deeds, and just to recite those surahs that are for the prayer, and then you're done. So there's not that spiritual connection, and because they don't understand the language, they don't know what they're saying. So it was difficult for him to kind of accept, oh, why can't I speak my own language and speak to God? So there was always that, he always had that barrier. So
yeah. Well, thank you for answering that. There's a few more, but we're only going to get to a couple more of them, I suppose. Well, Benjamin is actually saying, I think we need an Amira YouTube channel. I mean, your safety comes first, but I think everyone here would agree that you sound like you do very well, at talking about these topics.
Well, thank you. I debated it I did debate it. I do have 2 kids, and they require a lot of my time and energy. However, maybe one day, yeah.
Well, there's another question asking, would you bring them up as atheist or lax cultural Muslim, or how would that look like?
I think I'm still like in my spiritual journey. I don't think I can ever be atheist, just because I think it takes more energy and more faith to become an atheist than to become a agnostic, in my opinion. I looked into atheism, and I just feel like there's more, in my opinion, this is just my opinion. It's not, everybody shouldn't feel the way I feel. However, in my opinion, I feel like it takes a lot of faith to become an atheist, and there's more evidence to an existence of a higher power than for me personally. So they'll be raised definitely believing in God, but I'm never going to tell them that they cannot form their own opinion, because it's very important for them to believe in it as much as I do. I don't want them to fake believe in it, because I would hate that for them.
Okay. Well, I have more thoughts about that, but I don't want to keep you for too long. But just quickly to mention, like when I say, for example, that I'm an atheist, which I don't use that label because people would often misunderstand. In my case, I don't think I mean that there is no God. It's just more like this kind of definitions of gods, this whole paradigm of religions doesn't make sense. It's not from God, if that God exists.
Gotcha. So theism. So basically you're anti-theism.
anti-theism is a whole other thing too. It's like you think that theism is bad, for example, or you're against that as a concept, which
Gotcha.
I'm starting to lean towards, but it's more complicated than just the label.
Yeah.
But anyway, yeah, just wanted to throw that in. And the last
Thank you.
question, sorry,
Yeah.
go ahead.
It's okay. I just thank you for clarifying that.
No, yeah, I'm glad to be able to do that. But I still understand what you mean about believing in a higher power. And I would have follow-up questions, but yeah, I don't want to keep you for too long.
No problem.
The last one from Nazone75. Thanks for the super chat, by the way. What was the last thing or the most difficult thing in Islam to let go of for you?
For me, oh gosh, I mean, there's a lot of things that it was very hard for me to let go. I think probably would be just the sense of belonging to something that is bigger than you. And I think a lot of people love that. I still I still fast Ramadan with my father because hey, Ramadan's coming, April 1st. To me, it's more like a cleanse now. It's not like, oh my gosh, I need to do it because I'm going to hell if I don't do it. I do it just out of solidarity to my father. We all do it. Even my mom, she's Christian. She does it just because we love him. And I think that's what a lot of people need to understand when they leave the religion, is that you don't have to leave those that love you unless they choose to leave you. And if they choose to leave you, that's on them, not on you. I know it's hard. It's harder said than done. But yeah, so I think the hardest thing is that letting go of those things that you used to do and then catching yourself doing it, especially at the beginning, like wudu and your salah. Like sometimes I catch myself saying like, oh, at this time I would have been praying asr. And especially if it's my father around, because he will go and pray. And it's that awkward silence between us where like I'm looking at him and I'm like, yeah, you go, go get your go get your prayer rug. It's
Hasanat.
fine, and I respect him for it because I never want him to feel like if he enters my home, he cannot pray or he cannot practice who he wants to be, because he's a very, very good person and I love him very much. And I wish we could see eye to eye when it comes to this, but maybe one day we will, maybe one day we won't, but I don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. So I'm just hoping for the best and preparing for the worst. So,
well, I wish you the best, and I hope the preparation for the worst doesn't come in handy.
yeah.
But it's always useful, I suppose.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. Well, thank you for joining and for answering our questions so patiently.
No problem. Thank you so much for this platform, and I look forward to listening to the other callers that are going to come in right now.
Yeah, thank you.
All righty. Have a good one. Thanks.
Bye-bye. So you got 3 more callers. I just wanted to highlight one comment before getting Sarah on. This comment I found funny. So Bilal Ali is saying, I'm so down for an ex-Muslim dating app. I've been kind of keeping an eye on the chats, and he was talking about he said something like, to be honest, I'm just here to meet. I'm assuming to meet like an ex-Muslim woman or something, which I'm saying is funny, but please do not harass or follow or just interact with anyone in the comments with that intention, because this is not the kind of space for it. But what I found funny is just the series of comments by this person talking about like the logistics of it, how would it be safe, and this is not a roast of this person at all. I just found it funny that they're, thinking out loud in the comments about this. And it is an honest, honestly, it is a serious matter, which is how do ex-Muslims meet other ex-Muslims? And yeah, so this is not like ridiculing the person. I just found the whole situation funny. So yeah, thanks for that. Anyhow, I am taking Sarah now. Sarah, I'm adding you in 3, 2, 1. Hey, how's it going?
How's it going? Hi, can you hear me well?
Yeah, there might be a bit of an echo.
Okay, I'm checking.
You know what?
Yeah?
Yeah, do you have earphones or something?
Yeah, I have earphones on.
Okay, try those on. Yeah. Right.
Is this
we're
better?
still going on here. Yeah, this is a lot better actually.
Okay, hi. First of all, thank you so much for having me.
Of course.
This platform, it gives people like me who basically have no other way to speak out, because I do actually live in the Middle East. I'm not going to give too much details, obviously. And there's something I want to talk about, how people say that if you believe there's no harm, and if you don't, then you're going to end up in hell and be tortured and the whole thing. And that's just like not true. It's just that we don't realize it. So one thing that I've thought about recently, like one of the effects that religion had on me, thankfully I had like a good childhood. My parents weren't super strict or anything. You could basically call me what people call as a cultural Muslim. Like I used to pray, I used to fast, but it's not like I believed in religion because I believed in it. I believed in it because I was born a Muslim. So yeah, and then I just want to mention when my father passed away when I was like a young teenager, maybe 12 or 13, and there's this hadith. I don't know the exact translation in English, but basically, after someone dies, the deeds that they have left, like that would benefit them is one of them is having like a good child that prays for them. And at the time, I wasn't like, I didn't always used to pray and all that. And I remember thinking that, maybe my father wasn't the best Muslim. He didn't always pray and didn't always fast, maybe, especially when he got sick and all that. And I was thinking, what if I'm the cause that, he gets tortured, for like eternity. And if you think about it, that's like a really heavy thought, especially, being a child. So the idea that religion, if you believe there's nothing wrong with it, like that's really not true. It does affect our life. And, as people mentioned, like it also affects, like the ability to be able to find a partner and so on. It can be funny, but it's really not. Yeah.
I know it's really difficult. I'm really sorry to hear about that guilt that you had, feeling like you could be responsible for that. It goes both ways as well. Like I know there's a lot of parents who feel like they have to force their children, and not necessarily young children, but up until their 30s and even 40s, they have to do something to save them from hell, right? That kind of mentality, and that could turn things ugly. And even if things don't turn violent or ugly, it's still pretty sad, and it destroys families. And yeah, belief is not just harmless. It's not, what's the harm in just letting that be? And yeah, your point about the like dating is not a joke. I know. I'm sorry if I sometimes make jokes out of things just to,
No,
lighten up the mood.
it's
But
good to keep things a bit lighthearted because, a lot of subjects are,
yeah,
very dark. So, a joke here and there is okay. Yeah.
yeah.
So, the way I was brought up, I was kind of like I was always surrounded by, yes, I was in the Middle East, and I've been to like a couple countries, lived in the past in one country, and now I'm in a different one. But the schools I went in, the communities I was in, I was always like around people from different nationalities. So when I hear something like only Muslims go to heaven, that means that, most people that I know are not going to heaven. And that's something that I didn't actually believe, because I was under the, the idea that no, God is perfect, Islam is perfect. So, of course, all of this is not true. Prophet was the most amazing man ever. But I just had this all these ideas and I had no proof of it. Because what you hear is that people leave Islam because they don't know enough, because they don't have knowledge. When for me it was the exact opposite. It wasn't like I started to have doubts and then I decided one day, okay, no, I'm gonna leave Islam. It was the opposite. It was because I wanted to be really devout, and this started maybe when I was 18 or 19, first year of college. I wanted to be more devout, and the community I was in at the time, it wasn't as diverse as maybe like in high school and my earlier years. I was surrounded by like more Muslims, more practicing Muslims, and I felt the need to kind of fit in. Obviously, I felt that I'm the wrong one if I'm not being devout, and I'm being like a bad person, not just like a bad Muslim, but as a bad person. So it's when I had to look into religion and I found things that I would consider immoral, and it took me so long. It's not an easy decision. It's not like I want to go drink alcohol, so I'm going to be an ex-Muslim. It's not how it works. It's more like sorry, I lost my train of thought, but it's more like you really, because even if I had doubts, I was still scared that, the possibility of hell being there, the possibility that I'm not just, being a bad Muslim, I'm also like being a bad daughter, being a bad family member, I feel like it affects the people around me, not just me. So it was really like a huge moment, and even until now, it's not something that I openly speak about. Maybe only like a few very close people know about it.
Yeah, it's. I'm sorry, by the way, if there's a noise. Again, it's one of my cats. Sorry about that interruption.
I have a cat as well.
Yeah, I've got two, so there's twice the noise. Yeah. Not to detract from your what you're saying. I know that even if you don't believe in, see, I started from a position of more belief, and then I wanted to strengthen it just like you did, but I didn't realize, or I didn't think too much of it, to be honest, till I'm hearing from you, is even if you don't believe, even if you are like a cultural Muslim, so to speak, there's still difficulties. It comes with its own set of difficulties as well, or a lot of common ones to what we go through. So it's I suppose validating to a lot of cultural Muslims, because I see a lot of this sentiment repeated, which is, I don't even know if I can call myself an ex-Muslim, and I say it doesn't matter what you label yourself as, or they say, I feel bad for even complaining about this because I was never really that religious. But yeah, I want to let you know that these struggles are real, whether you actually believe that, flying buraq and all that stuff or not. The real world effects of that, the societal issues, the familial issues, those are real. So yeah, sorry you went through them, but I hope that you're in a much better place now.
I try to be. I'm going to be in a much better place if, the whole society changes, or if I leave the country. But other than that, yeah.
Yeah. Well, I hope it doesn't have to get to that, but I understand that that's sometimes what it takes. But you know what? I feel like home is wherever you make home to be. So try not to dwell too much on, what's going to happen in the future, and just make the best of what you of your surroundings, and you never know what home is going to be.
Yeah, that's true. I think that, for me, the way that I kind of handle everything, like my mental health and everything, is that I try to keep like a circle of close people around me. They don't have to necessarily understand. Maybe I don't share everything, like the fact that I no longer believe is not, common knowledge. you know, and I stopped fasting maybe a couple of years ago, and I would make up the strangest excuses like, oh, I'm sick today, or, you know, there were times where I would lie like the 30 days, you know, I would say that I'm on my period or whatever, you know, just like give these fake excuses. And my sister would still, so I have an older sister, she doesn't live with us, but whenever she'd see me, she'd be like, oh, you know, when you go to hell, your hair is going to be pulled up on this thing and you're going to burn. And, you know, she's older than me by like 10 years. And she says it so casually. It's like, hi, do you want to have coffee? Hi, you're going to burn in hell. You know, it's just like, religion does have like a huge impact on people that people really like. I don't think we're just acknowledging it. Yeah, that's all.
Does it drive you crazy? Like, it drives me crazy that we're not acknowledging it as, you know, as a collective, as a society. That it seems like you and I are talking, and thankfully we have, you know, a good chunk of audience watching us right now. But I feel like the world needs to collectively get together and realize how insane it is that we just let people. It's not about their belief in the unseen. It's about what comes after that. And that they can so casually just say, you're going to burn in these graphic ways. And we think it's just freedom of religion, guys. It's just one of many beliefs. Does that drive you nuts? Because it drives me nuts sometimes.
Yes, exactly. And something I mentioned in the private chat, that it's, you know, smart people can be religious, but I feel like it makes people more vulnerable to certain ideas that they wouldn't otherwise think about or believe in. You know, like as you mentioned, like the
it
flying
can dull
Buraq
like
and
their
all that.
empathy. Sorry, go ahead.
Sorry, I was just giving an example, like the flying Buraq, or you know, the fact that I split the moon and all that.
I mean, all that doesn't even. At first, when I realized that Islam is not real, this stuff was like, it was bizarre to me. How can someone intelligent believe that? But then I just got over that kind of quickly. But what bothers me is the real life consequences, like the fact that people don't realize what telling someone, you know, that they're gonna go and burn in hell forever for the silliest, dumbest things is actually problematic. And I was gonna say, you said, yeah, intelligent people can still be religious, or can still fall for these mind traps, is how I would put it. I think it also dulls their empathy in a sense. Like, they had no empathy in that moment to think of how would this person feel about this, or it skews their view of the world, that they think it's more empathetic to scare them into doing the right thing because hell is worse, right? That's how they believe, or how they think now. But it's unfortunate. Yeah.
Yeah. So there was a question that was asked, and it was, what was the hardest or the last thing that you had to leave from Islam? And for me, the answer to that would be the fear, like just the pure fear, like what if I'm wrong, you know? But then I kind of just like reaffirmed myself, like, no, this is if I think rationally, if I look at, because, you know, like when I started looking into it, I kind of didn't want to look at anything that, you know, one person says, or that's said from one source, because I feel like everyone would have a bias. I kind of like had to form my own ideas about it. I mean, like, for example, like, I didn't even start watching YouTube videos except for since quarantine, actually. So it was, and I had to look at what people had to say, like how they would defend Islam, because even though I didn't believe in it, I still wanted to be like 1000% sure. And I would hear people say, like, you don't speak Arabic, you don't understand the Arabic. It's like, no, well, I do, you know, so that's not even an excuse. And, you know, a lot of people speak Arabic. You can ask one of them. That's one of the things.
That's when it becomes even more dangerous, that most Muslims, even in the Arab world, they still don't know about a lot of this stuff. But when they do, and the apologetics that rely on obfuscation, changing the meaning of the word to English something else. These don't work there as well. So then what those Muslims are faced with is they either like realize that they would have to dismiss this hadith or whatever this is, or they would just flat out deny and not think about it, or they're more likely to embrace it. And now they've internalized it and they think, well, Allah says it's okay, therefore it's part of my morality now. And that's more dangerous than just the apologetics on their own, in my opinion.
Yes, that's true. There was actually a huge controversy. Am I saying that right?
Controversy, yeah. I stutter sometimes in English, yeah.
Because basically a well-known imam from Al-Azhar, he spoke about like wife beating, and basically he was justifying it. And that caused like a huge uproar, and he didn't do anything. He just basically cited Quran and Hadith. It's not like he voiced his opinion, you know. And maybe he did, you know, because he's like, yeah, he has to do it lightly, this, and it doesn't say lightly. That's his opinion, you know.
I said the same thing. I remember tweeting about it saying, why are people mad at him? I'm like, seriously, why are you mad at him, not at the source of the information? But yeah, I understand that. And unfortunately, the ones who do, like, the people who are mad at it haven't looked into it themselves usually, for the most part. And the ones who do look into it and they see, okay, this guy's talking like truth right here. The Arabic is right here in my face. The tafsir is right here in my face. Now they've accepted it. And even some women, unfortunately, they say, I've heard this firsthand. Yeah, maybe in some situations a woman deserves to be beaten just for the right reasons. And that breaks my heart.
Yeah. I also wanted to mention, like, even assuming that people are misinterpreting these hadiths or Quran, like, I feel like if Allah is real, he would at least come up with something most people would understand, you know.
Thank you.
Like 90% maybe would understand. As you, like, maybe the 10 are, I don't know, not smart enough or have like mental disability. Let's say at least 90%, but that's not the case. People argue even within the Muslim community. So I feel like a perfect being should be able to communicate a bit better.
Absolutely. Exactly my thoughts. And it seems like too much to ask sometimes when we tell Muslims this, when they say, we were talking about this in the private chat, Islam is perfect, Muslims are not. Well, if the method of transmission relies on the receiver being perfect, then it's a bad method of transmission, right? You should find another way to make imperfect people understand what you meant. Whether they want to follow is a whole other topic, but so many Muslims are honestly decent people who are convinced because they think this is what God is saying. So I completely agree with you, yeah. Sorry, that was that on the stream?
It's okay. Just a tiny cough.
I thought I muted myself. Sorry about that. Oh God. Okay.
So I actually have to go soon because it's almost 3 a.m. here.
Wow. Well, thank you for staying up late, and thank you for joining us today. Is there anything else that you want to say before you go?
No, just thank you for giving me a voice. That's all.
Of course, happy to do it. Take care, Sarah.
Have a good day. You too.
Thanks.
Bye.
You too. Bye-bye. All right, so we have one more caller in the back, Maya. If people are going to stick around, I could take one more caller. There's a Sarah again in the comments who's asking. If there's enough time, I guess we could take one more caller. However, for now, we'll add Maya. I just want to say thank you, Veiled Rose, for the super chat. Yeah. So my cats have been raising hell, and this is one of them. Hey, say hi, Apu. Okay, no, this guy's the more innocent one, to be honest. The other one I can't catch right now, but he's the one making all the noise. So I'm taking Maya, and I'm also going to share the link for the next caller to talk. We still got Bilal asking about ex-Muslim dating. Look, dude, start, have a startup, have a think tank, think about all the ways that you can make it safe, and then we'll talk. We'll have like a Shark Tank episode here. And then after I'm done with this caller, Maya, and then the next caller, I suppose, who will join, then I will read some comments by women who couldn't join today but wanted their opinion heard. So, Maya, I'm going to add you in 3, 2, 1. Hey, how's it going?
Hi, can you hear me?
I can hear you fine, yeah.
How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
This is I'm doing all right. Thank you. What is the question that we're discussing, or do you just want me to share my experience as an ex-Muslim woman?
Well, let me ask it this way. By the way, can you come a little closer to the mic?
Is this okay? I
A
hope
little too
it's
close.
not. Oh, how
Little
about
too close.
now? Sorry.
All right. I'll adjust the volume from here. I'll see if I
Sorry.
can do that. That's all right. Yeah. So what would I want to ask? Well, more like what comes to mind. So you can say anything to other ex-Muslim men and women right now. What comes to mind? What is the thing that you think when you watch some of these videos or go about your day-to-day life?
I don't know. In general, or
I mean,
what comes to mind when I watch ex-Muslim content?
Or when you're going about your life, I mean, what do you think of as an ex-Muslim woman? Does it cross your mind at all, this topic? How does it affect your day-to-day life?
Now that I'm not Muslim anymore, I guess it doesn't, but there are some things that are still affecting me right now that, for example, FGM.
Okay.
Yeah, a lot of the women in my family have dealt with that at some point and have had to get surgeries done to, or will in the future, to overcome stuff like FGM. I am from, my family's from Somalia. I wasn't born there, but I lived there for the first 7 years of my life. And I don't know if you know anything about Somalia. Do you know any Somali people?
I do, but I'll let you give us some background because some of the people in the live stream.
Yeah, Somalia is considered to be like 100% Muslim. They have, they're hardcore Muslims. They follow the Quran. Like some of them are Sufis actually, but there are a lot of, I think, Wahhabis. Yeah, like my family from my dad's side is hardcore Wahhabis. They follow everything to the T, and I lived with my grandparents there. All of me and my siblings lived there for the first 7 years of my life. And the first thing that made me go, what the hell is that about Islam or anything like that, is about like the hudud laws. Am I saying that right?
Yeah, hudud, yeah.
Yeah, I remember when I was little, I was probably 4 or 5. I don't know why I still remember this. I remember they were handing out like CDs of people getting punished. You can name it. And I don't know, can I mention people getting amputated and
Yeah. Well, you already did, but
decapitated?
it's fine. Yeah, feel free to talk about
Yeah,
whatever.
people getting, they would do it in groups, so that people can witness it, and then they'd hand out disc CDs to the neighboring houses so that people can be aware, be careful, don't do this. And it was so normal.
Wait, CDs showing like the process?
Yeah, they would film it. Yeah, they would film it and they'd give it out for free. I remember one time my aunts and my stepbrother were in a room watching it, and I just saw a glimpse of it. And ever since then, I don't know, it just made me feel so weird. I still remembered it. And then a few years later, I think I was like 9, we moved to another country that was still in Africa, close to Somalia. And I was snooping around in my aunt's phone, and then I saw a video on there too. I don't know what it is about that. It just, maybe because I was so little, it just stayed in my head. and it just used to make me wonder. I of course I heard we used to go to Duxi, I don't know, Islamic schools in Somalia. Usually you'd go there, you'd be there the whole day, just leave to eat from home and then go back. They would mention that if you ever stole something, then this is the law for it. And yeah, they would mention that, and it was really enforced there in Somalia. Anyway, the first thing that probably made me go, what the hell is that? That probably made me think about why would there be something like that in the Quran or something, or yeah, something was probably the hudud laws. And then a few years later, my older brother, started questioning and left, which also led me to question. And I was still Muslim, but yeah, it made me wonder a lot of stuff about that. And I don't know if it was the cognitive dissonance, but all of a sudden my older sister was doing a physical checkup, and her doctor pointed out that something was not right about her female reproductive area. And we didn't realize it. She didn't know what was going on because this happened to us when we were so young. And that's when we researched stuff about FGM, and we figured out that it had Islamic roots, and all of this stuff just added up. And I started researching about, like, where did Islam come from? Like, why do I even believe in this? And come to find out, I was researching the Prophet's life or whatever, and my God, I don't even know why. I don't know why I believed in it all of these years, but all the stuff, all of those horrible things that he did, it just. Anyway, yeah, I think it was last year that I finally decided that it wasn't for me anymore. I just left.
I'm
Yeah,
really
that's
sorry to
it.
hear about that.
That
And
was probably all over the place. Sorry.
no, you're fine. Yeah, it took me a second to register. I mean, when you said they were giving out CDs or DVDs, in my mind I was thinking, oh, some like religious lectures or something.
No.
No, that's brutal. I'm really sorry that you had to go through that as a child or an adult. Like, I can see myself coming across that now in my household, and just if I were still a believer, that would really mess with my head. And if I weren't, I'd still be worried what the hell's going on.
Yeah.
I'm really sorry. Yeah.
All of that added with the emotional manipulation that you go through in Somali household as a woman. It really boggles my head. And in hindsight, now that I'm thinking about it, like, you're not covered enough, you're not practicing enough, you're not obedient enough, you're just not enough, as a woman. And yeah, now that I think about it, it just brings back a lot of weird things.
Well, I don't want you to dwell on that thought. I know it can be very difficult to revisit all of this. I wanted to say that I'm glad that your brother, had that realization before you, and I hope that you had an ally in your brother. Is that the case? Do you talk about it at all?
Oh yeah, I actually before he left, we had a huge fight with my mom, and she kicked us out, me, my brother, and my sister. And I think that's just being away from that bubble is what really made me just realize that, I don't know, it was a whole environment, a whole new environment, a whole new perspective. And yeah, not only that, but my sister also left. She doesn't believe anymore.
Mm-hmm.
And my other siblings are pretty moderate about the whole thing now, compared to like 2 years ago. We were like really religious. We were brought up in the masjid, in the yeah, we all memorized. Some of us have finished memorizing the Quran, and most of us almost memorized the whole Quran. So yeah, our family, especially our dad's side, is very religious, very, very religious. My dad was like an imam, like a really famous one back in the day. He passed away now, but yeah, we were all very religious.
Well, I'm glad that you still had some sort of community, like your siblings, and it seems like you might still be able to communicate with your other siblings who are still religious, because they're not extreme about it. I hope
Yeah,
they're more
yeah,
moderate
yeah.
about it.
hmm
So
Yeah,
I hope you celebrate the little wins. Well, the big wins, in a sense.
yeah. I'm actually in a better place now than I was like
I'm
a year
very
ago
happy to
before
hear
I
that.
left. Yeah,
Yeah.
and I'm much more happy about life now. There's so much to look forward to. I guess, yeah. I don't really I'm not sad about leaving, that's for sure. There's
Mhm.
so much more possibilities now.
Well, what would you tell women who were stuck in the position you were in, or not necessarily just stuck, but who are in the position that you were in before you left? What would you tell them?
I'm not really good at giving out advice. I would probably just say,
Well, it doesn't have to be advice per se. I mean, what do you think you would have wanted to hear in that moment? Let's phrase it that way.
it's okay to question, because I felt really guilty about that for some reason. I just couldn't let myself question at all. Just don't question about, especially like, Allah's supposed to be so loving, and Muhammad, he loved you way more than your parents could ever. That thing that they repeat every time.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think what made me go really weird in the head was when I researched Muhammad. Like, if there was something bad in the Quran, I would just say meh. Okay, so what? But like seeing Muhammad doing anything bad just really, I don't know. Like, I think the last draw for me was reading about his Jewish wife or whatever, Safiya, I think was her name. I think that was what made me go, okay, yeah, bye. Because Muhammad's supposed to be the best of the best, the best human being to walk on the earth, the best. If you see that he did even something that's a little bit wrong, I think that would make you kind of question a little bit more. So yeah, maybe research Muhammad more. I don't know if that will help.
Yeah, I agree with that. I could think of examples off the top of my head, but that's a good point. Just research Muhammad and see if he is the man that everybody claims he is. And I think don't let me put words in your mouth or anything, but as a woman, wouldn't that affect you more, knowing what kind of man Muhammad was to women compared to, I
Oh,
suppose, like a man reading about it?
definitely. Because of the way he treated women and his wives, and excuse me, and he married a little girl. If that's not enough to make you question, then I don't know what could be. But for some people, the cognitive dissonance is there. I have like friends that won't even look at that. I mean, they're other than that, they're really good people, but I don't know, anything that has to do with Muhammad being a bad person, they can't go near it for some reason. And I can relate because I was there once too. So
Yeah. Well, that's good advice. Don't be afraid to question. And I hope that you continue, feeling better and better. And it sounds like you're in a great place. And I'm very happy to hear that. And I hope others can get there as well.
thank you.
Yeah.
And obviously, I have people, content makers like you and other ex-Muslim content makers to thank for that. So thanks a lot. Thank you.
I'm happy to help. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Take care.
Yeah, you
Bye-bye.
too.
All right. We've got 2 more callers. I'll try to get to both. Some comments that I wanted to highlight very quickly. What is hudud? So Zaid answers by saying hudud laws are laws ordained by Allah to be carried out in an Islam state. They're meant to be preventative laws, and that's what I want to comment on. It literally translates to boundaries, so boundaries set by Allah. So I'm not implying that anything Zaid was saying specifically, but I read this a lot. They're meant to be preventative laws, as if it takes away from the brutality of it. Like, I've heard this a lot as an excuse. Like, they only chop off limbs so that people are too scared to steal. And there's so much problematic to get into, but just I hope you realize, if you're listening to this and this quieted your questions, when you read it's meant to be preventative, it's not actually meant to be carried out. Just stop and think about that for a second, because I think it's just nonsensical. And yeah, the guilt of rationalizing such horrible practices in the past. Oh no, it's a cultural thing, nothing to do with Islam. I want to say this. I'm sick and tired of hearing people argue about whether it's a cultural thing or an Islamically ordained thing. There are precedents set in it by Islam, and Islam doesn't do anything to stop it. Like, if anything, Allah and Muhammad should have had the foresight to know that this is a problem that will continue on. Let us explicitly say this is not allowed. That would be so easy to implement. So the point here is not to focus too much on whether it says literally do it or not. This is a problem that is propagated by Islam and it affects real people. So to argue that it's just cultural, it just shuts down the conversation and kind of washes Islam's hands of the blood that this causes. And the real victims, they don't get any, like, they don't get anything from this. And it doesn't help prevent future victims. All we're, scapegoating is this vague culture that no one's going to tackle, because what culture are we talking about? So yeah, that it really bothers me to read people actually unironically say that. Anyway, now we're getting to Sarah, and then hopefully the next caller, and then I'll read some comments that I had put aside from other women who couldn't join today. Sarah, I'm adding you in 3, 2, 1. Hey Sarah, how's it going?
Hi, good, thank you. First of all, I'd just like to apologize for my voice. I'm recovering from this really bad flu. But thanks for taking my call. I really appreciate it.
For sure.
I just like to add to what Maya was saying about FGM. We talk about FGM a lot, but we don't talk about male circumcision, which in my opinion is as bad. I have a son, and he was circumcised when he was 6 weeks old, and it's so normal, I think, because maybe Muslims and even Jewish people do it, right? So it's very normalized, male circumcision, but it is a elective cosmetic almost surgery that's done on a child who can't consent to it. It should be illegal. In fact, there is like this article that a British lawyer wrote saying, and they talk about how it's good for you. It's all a myth, saying that it's more healthy. There are millions of men in this world who aren't circumcised, who are perfectly fine. So I just wanted to say that, because it's child abuse, because children can't consent to it, male or female. But yeah, just for some background, so I'm from Sri Lanka, but I live in another country now. And I've never really, I don't think, like a lot of girls here were saying that they really believed in Islam but started doubting it later. I think I never believed in faith. It was very hard. I remember my first day in kind of Muslim Sunday school in Sri Lanka. The teacher said, a good Muslim is someone who can believe in what they can't see, and that's faith, right? And I have a real issue with that. And I'm also a lawyer, and I think that really affects my ability to believe in something without proof, and something that doesn't stand up to critical thinking and analysis. But in terms of the effects of Islam, even covering your head, basically what women are put through, it is a religion that's written by men for men. You can see it very plainly. I mean, you talk about dating, and I think there's a hadith that says a male scholar can preach to female scholars, but female scholars can't preach to men. They can't do dawah, I think, because men would get kind of distracted by their voice. It completely ignores a woman's feelings. A woman might even feel the same about him. Not that I'm saying Umar Suleiman's so hot, but someone might find him attractive.
Well, you know what? I can give a more immediate example. I've spoken to how many women today? I don't remember how many women. At no point did I think I'm distracted because it's such a womanly voice. I forgot up until you mentioned it right now that, yeah, I've been talking to women for the past couple of hours or 3 hours. It's an absolutely invalid point unless you make the woman's voice such a big deal that when they hear it, now they're going to have that reaction that they're warned of,
Yeah, exactly. And it's so subjective, this whole obsession over hair. I was reading memoirs of a geisha, and they were saying how in Japan, geishas, they show their necks, the back of their neck, because that they find as attractive as men in the West would find legs, or like a woman showing legs. It's so subjective. In Norse mythology, hell is cold. But in Abrahamic religions, it's hot because Abrahamic religions are from the desert, and Norse mythology is from Iceland. It's just there. The proof is just there, but people just don't want to admit it. And I know what Maya was saying about cognitive dissonance, because I know lawyers, doctors, really smart, like scientists. I really don't understand how someone can be a doctor and still believe in Islam or religion.
I had the same thoughts, like especially a mental health doctor. Like, how do you diagnose a jinn like whispers or shaitan whispers versus someone actually hearing like voices because of some other mental health condition? Yeah, schizophrenia or something like that. Like, how do you trust a Muslim doctor when it comes to mental health matters? I mean, some of them, like, this is not a commentary on all Muslim doctors, but I've heard a lot from a lot of ex-Muslims telling me, especially when the Muslim mental health professional finds out that they have doubts or they've left Islam or something, they somehow try to treat mental illness with religion. And it doesn't make sense. You can't hold both at the same time.
No, I mean, I think I sometimes suffer from like mild anxiety, but I get told by my husband, who's extremely religious, to pray and it'll all be okay. Just pray and ask dua and it'll be fine. But that's really and when a doctor does that, that's negligent. This person might need actual medication. There might be imbalances in their hormone, serotonin, norepinephrine, blah blah. You have to treat it like an illness. But yeah, it's even ruqyas. But yeah, I guess that's what you said when you meant what you said, jinn. Yeah, but yeah, it really affects you, and it affects how women see other women too. My sister-in-law is really religious, and we were watching a movie where a girl's about to get raped, and she's dressed scantily, and my sister-in-law said, "Oh, obviously she's going to be raped if she's dressed like that," and that's a woman saying that about another woman. My sister-in-law, she's educated, not that she's been to a really good school and everything, but it really kind of, it puts all the fault on the woman. You're supposed to cover yourself up so that you don't lead men astray. You're supposed to basically bear all the burden and all the blame, and even you have no voice when you have to ask for a divorce. A man has to give you permission to leave him. There is a big problem now in Sri Lanka where they're trying to, because in Sri Lanka Muslims have a different marriage law, so it's not the general law of the land that applies to Muslims. They can get married under Muslim law, and Sri Lankan Tamils can get married under Tamil law and etc. but now they're trying to repeal it. But there are so many Muslims and the Sri Lankan Ulama Association that are just against it, and it's been going on for about 6 years now, and they've not seen a change. And girls are really, because Islam says a woman, a wali has to sign for the girl, but the father needs the girl's consent. But then how do you prove that the girl has consented? Not everyone, a girl could be coerced. I mean, I understand a girl could be coerced into signing too, but still that's one more step, right? I wasn't even there at the mosque. I was at the back of the mosque, and I was married because men decided. So my father signed for me. It's absurd. You have no agency. Nothing.
It's almost satirical that in this kind of marriage, the woman is not even needed for the marriage.
Oh no.
For the ceremony to happen.
No, not at all. I barely heard what they were saying even. I think it's cultural in the sense that some cultures, the women go to the mosque with the man and sit at the table. I've seen that, I think, in like Malaysia and all. But Islam sets out the precedent for it. So you can't say it's cultural. It allows it. And you're treated like an object. Whenever I used to question the religion and say, why are women so suppressed and they're controlled like this, a kind of Islamic teacher that my mother sent me to, thinking she can talk some religious sense into me, said, oh, where do you keep your diamond? You keep it hidden in a drawer, locked away. But I'm not an object. I'm a person. But that's what it does to women. Even the whatever teachings about women are told through a man. You don't get anything directly. You're not told anything. Most of it, it's the Quran says, oh, you believe in men, and we just say, okay, fine, that applies to us as well.
I mean, somebody, I remember someone was asking, well, how come the Quran doesn't address women, or Islam, doesn't favor women or anything, or doesn't see women as equal? And I remember some apologists saying that there's a whole surah dedicated to women, Surah An-Nisa. But
1 in 30.
and it's like, it's telling men, hey, your wives, hey, men, about your wives. It's
your wife is your tilt. You may go and sow your seed whenever you please. So my mother-in-law took me to this class where they teach women Islam, and so the alima, she said that, and then she said, most feminists would say this is sexist, but your kind of, you have to protect and you have to nurture your crop, and that's what it means. So they just do all this what do you call it,
mental gymnastics.
With the gymnastics, and justify it, and women are just fooling themselves, which is sad. It's just so sad.
Yep. You know what? I want you to tell me what you thought. I didn't bring it up in the previous call because I just didn't bring it up. But I'll give you a situation and tell me, as a woman, how would you feel if your husband treated you like Muhammad will treat his wife in this situation? So if you've heard about Sauda, she was one of the Prophet's wives. She was one of the older wives of the Prophet, as in her age, and in some narrations she's mentioned as tall and kind of unattractive. That's kind of how she's brought up.
And she gives up her night. I think I heard you speaking about this in another video.
For those who don't know, like she was worried that the Prophet was going to divorce her, and narrations differ about why, but it's just mostly about her being too unattractive to him, or she was worried that she's too unattractive, especially when he's walking around, praising Aisha, the youngest wife. He's just like so in love with her so openly, and she gave up her night, one of the nights of the week, to Aisha, so that the Prophet would spend more time with her. And the Prophet, a verse was revealed to legitimize this, saying, if you worry that your husband is going to leave you, give up some of your rights. How would you feel if your husband accepted your offer? Like if you felt that way and he accepted your offer, how would that make you feel?
It would obviously make me feel less than, that I would feel of such little worth, right? My self-esteem, I would feel diminished. It's obviously I'd feel hurt, insecure, all that. But yeah, it's really, I kind of, this is really personal, but my husband, he says he doesn't want to be intimate with me at night because he has to wake up and pray Fajr in the morning, and he has to have a shower before that. And I feel like, am I not even worth that much, right? That's how you feel when you have to give up so much as a woman for Islam, for your husband, for your in-laws. My mother-in-law keeps saying, the father has more rights over a child. I bore my baby. She hasn't said this to me. There's not been a conflict, but I bore my baby, and a man is supposed to have more rights. And I guess much of this is based on the fact of based on power dynamic, right? A woman is not independent, and especially back then, men are the maintainers of women, and as such, they're held in a position above them. So I've just made it my life's mission to contribute as much as possible to my household so as to be equal. But that in itself is messed up, right? I don't have to contribute financially to be felt like I'm equal to my husband. But that's the kind of warped thinking that Islam kind of, I don't know, encourages. That's the result of it. It's always you're not good enough. You're only half as intelligent as a man. You need 4 women to give witness. There's something, yeah. 4, 2 women must. Was it 4?
There was 2 women to give the witness of
one man. Yeah.
No,
So
I think you're thinking of a situation where to apply hudud, you need 4 witnesses.
4
So I guess,
yeah.
or 3 and 2 women. That
2
was the
women, yeah.
example.
Yeah. But like going back to your question, I would feel awful. The Prophet's the worst husband. He married a 6-year-old, for crying out loud. They say he consummated that marriage when she was 9, and that somehow is supposed to make it better. And you feel like the bad one. I used to bring it up with my husband, and I used to feel so guilty. Like Maya was saying, you feel guilty for questioning this so-called perfect man, but he is a pedophile. You shouldn't feel bad about questioning that a 50-something-year-old married a 6-year-old. But that's how Islam screws with your head, and you're brought up like this. You've been told this since you're a child. It's child abuse, right? It's putting a child in under a lot of stress, thinking about the hellfire, about your parents being punished if you don't behave, or my mother-in-law would tell my son, Allah is watching, and he's only 2 or 3. It drives me up the wall. Once you have a child, you kind of want to protect that child beyond anything. Against anything that you can. And even when he was being circumcised, I tried to fight it, but then I couldn't really, because it's just so normal. It's just you're almost powerless. And I'm like, unlike a lot of the women in my family back in Sri Lanka, I'm educated, I'm somewhat financially independent, but because of the way I have been brought up, and most Muslim women are brought up to kind of not question anything and be obedient and be the good little Muslim girl, you don't end up speaking up. It's you can't kind of break free of that. It's so hard to learn to do that. I think one caller was saying she doesn't have a relationship with her father and she moved out. I mean, that takes a lot of strength. I can't even imagine doing that. When I told my mother that I don't, that the Quran, can't be all that accurate because it was codified years and years later, she just started kind of banging her hand on her chest and going crazy, and she just made me feel so bad. It's the kind of emotional stress they put you under for speaking up. So you don't want to hurt your family, you don't want to be seen as like this person who goes against everything. It's a really difficult place to be a Muslim woman, especially because the Islam isn't as hard on men. I feel like men have less rules to follow under the religion than women. I mean, we have to do everything that men have to do under Islam and then some more, right? We have to cover our heads, protect our chastity. It's just a really bad place to be if you're a woman. I my whole life, even when I was really, really young, I used to think, why was I born in this family? Not because I didn't love my parents or anything, they've been really great. But why was I born a Sri Lankan Muslim girl? Yeah.
That's very difficult to live with.
Yeah.
I almost feel guilty that I didn't go through as much suffering as a man, and
oh, I'm sorry. If I imply that, it's easier.
It's not on you, no.
No, I used to see how my brothers were treated, and then how I was, and there is a difference. It's not only Islam. It's just if you're a woman, it's hard anywhere. I mean, it's not just Islam, it's Victorian values. I mean, women in Islam could inherit property way before women in England could, right? So there is something there.
Didn't what's her name? The Prophet's first wife. I'm blanking out. Sorry, I've been on the stream for a while. Khadija. Didn't she inherit all her wealth, or part of her wealth? Like, so
didn't she? She gave all her wealth to Islam, yeah.
Yeah, but she inherited a lot of it from, or she inherited something from her ancestors.
So it is also that culture existed then.
Yeah, that's what I mean to say is, okay, it's great if Islam did one thing correctly, which is, I mean, women get to inherit, sure, but they inherit less, and also that's their only income, like that's their only money, and they have to give back the mahar if they divorce and so on.
And it hasn't changed. Like one of the first things we learn in law school is that the law changes. Laws have to change, right? You can't have entrenched laws, but Islam never changes. So what is it? Women inherit less than, so I would inherit less than my brothers, right? Half of what my brothers would inherit. And back then, fine, yeah, it made sense because a man has to look after his family financially and a woman doesn't. But now it's different. Women are contributing equally financially, so wouldn't that mean that women should inherit equally? But it's not the case because Islam can't change.
Yeah, and it's entrapment to begin with, because if you presume that you would have to be provided for, then you're just put in that position of submissiveness forever, even if it makes sense that you get less money, but then the rest of it doesn't make sense, right? It's I feel a little bad because I wasn't as aware of all of these issues. I mean, I didn't I was aware of some of the issues that women went through, but again, I was one of those Muslims who thought it's culture, it's not Islam, and blah blah blah. And I was never forcing it on anybody, but this is kind of why I wanted to, or one of the reasons why I wanted to talk to ex-Muslim women directly, is because my focus is never going to be as coming from the same point of view as you, because of my experiences and what I think about day to day. So I'm glad that you're able to share this with us, and I hope that you feel more powerful being able to tell people about this, and having the control that you already do have in your life.
Oh yeah, definitely. No, it's massive. The fact that you've given Muslim women, ex-Muslim women, this platform, because I know a lot of ex-Muslims on YouTube. They speak to ex-Muslim women, but these are only women who are other YouTubers, or they already have a social platform. The fact that you're taking in calls from people, women who are pretty much regular, kind of, who were normal. Not that YouTubers are not normal, but you know what I mean, right? So it really helps. It makes a big difference. And I always used to watch. I guess he's called Abdullah Samir, and he has so many calls. And I said, "Oh, I'd really like to talk to him. I'd really like to talk to another ex-Muslim, but I'm not like a influencer, so I can't." But
that's how that's how I started. So
really,
I've told this story many times before, but the summary is someone was trying to release his information, his personal information. I saw that and I took down whatever that post was. Thankfully, it wasn't real information, but I let him know, and he said, this is fake information. So that was great. And then I asked him,
wow.
can I come on your channel? Like, I had no platform. I never intended on having a platform. I just thought, like, I want to talk like this,
Yeah.
I saw that he had interviews with non YouTubers, and I thought, let me ask him for that. And I just showed up with my voice and just like a photo of like a drawing of Aladdin, and yeah, and then throughout the interview, people were saying you should start a channel, and I was like, no. And by the time the call was over, I was like, okay, fine, maybe. But yeah, anyway, funny enough, it was Abdullah Samir. He's really he's really the friendly ex-Muslim. So
He really is. Yeah.
yeah.
We're really grateful to him, because you display this kind of sensitivity and sensibility that, I don't know, you don't get from everyone. A lot of ex-Muslims, I think they are very aware of how bad things are for women. But like you said, you've engaged us, and that means a lot.
Thank you for that. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Well, thanks again, Sarah, for joining us today. And yeah, is there anything else that you have on your mind before you go?
Not really. I guess it's just I'm just trying to take back control of my life now. I'm thinking of leaving my husband, because of the way we were married in Sri Lanka, which was an arranged marriage, which is very normal for Muslims in Sri Lanka. I found out recently that he most probably is gay. So yeah, it's a lot, and not having, in a way, I'm sad about not having a coping mechanism, which to a great extent is what Islam is to most Muslims. Like you said, most Muslims are nice, normal, good people, and it's just something that Islam gives them comfort, right? And I'm sad that I wish I could believe in something so much to know that I'll be okay. But it's also liberating to know that your fate is in your hands, and it's not all qadr, and you can excuse me, change your life for the better. But yeah, it's scary and liberating. Yeah.
Well, yeah, I hope you find some comfort knowing that your new purpose in life can be helping people, and you've already started by, telling people your story. So you're already doing it.
Yes, hopefully. Thank you. And thanks
Take
for
care,
taking
Sarah.
my call again. Thanks.
Of course. Yeah. Bye-bye.
Bye.
All right. Thanks again, Sarah, for joining. There was another caller, but unfortunately, it seems like they may have had to leave. And I'm sorry I couldn't get to all calls. I still have some comments to read, and then some comments from women who couldn't make it today. So I bookmarked this, not noticing the merch idea, but I think it was about one of the previous callers. Maya was saying it's okay to question. Yes, put that on T-shirts. Don't have to sell them. Just put them on T-shirts. And let's see. Jama was talking about how it's human nature to have favorites. In my example about the Prophet favoring Aisha, well, it's problematic in this case because that's the perfect man. And I was taught that to have more than one wife, you have to be fair between them. So is it fair to go around telling everybody that you favor your hot little new thing, compared to the old ones? And then not only that, but taking the offer of the old one to give up her rights and then making it a law. I think Muhammad went a little bit further than just having a secret favorite. And somebody recommended this book, A Thousand Splendid Suns. I did read that book. It is it can bring your mood down, but it might be worth the read. It'll put a lot of things into perspective when it comes to women suffering in the Middle East, or a case like that. Not necessarily the typical case, but it's it can be a difficult read, but it is worth it. All right, so and there was a comment here that I couldn't bookmark, but someone was talking about how my voice, apparently I get hit on a lot because of my voice. People say you have a great radio voice or something. And it's making me wonder if my voice is aura and if I should hide it because I don't want to entice anybody, male or female. According to Islamic logic, I shouldn't be speaking for more reasons than one, apparently. All right, so I'm going to read some of these comments now. So I was asking the women who couldn't join to tell me what they wanted to tell me in a comment. Sorry, 1 second. Okay, so thank you. Just created this account to state my interest. Raised into the cult for nearly 30 years. Been out since 6 weeks. Oh, wow, that's pretty recent. Freeing yet terrifying. First introduction to the other side was via this community, specifically the Hadith of the Day. That's a series called the Hadith of the Day, as follows. It's a hadith that says, I feel that your Lord hastens in fulfilling your wishes and desires. That's Aisha said this to the Prophet. It didn't click at first because I didn't understand the meaning of hastens. I imagine the TOT phenomenon apply to your brain while going through strong cognitive dissonance due to years of indoctrination, rationalization, and lies. The underworld was slowly taken over. What if the Prophet, dare I even think, lied? I hit breaking point after stumbling upon a simple yet powerful comment. AischaKnew. Rest is history. Wait a second. Does this have anything to do with the caller AischaKnew earlier? Or I don't know. Or is this a miracle? It's a linguistic miracle. In the short term, ex-Muslims are ex-cult members and practical solutions are needed for recovery, such as daily journaling, support groups, bureaucratic references for those stuck in Muslim countries, etc. Just to comment on that, it is true, and sometimes people don't want to, or they're scared to realize the extent of it. But it's not necessarily the case for everybody. Some people have a smoother transition. Some people do need more help. So if you do need the help, recognize that, hopefully, and try to get it. And we do need more institutional kind of organizations to help with this kind of thing. And I hope to someday not only make videos, but I hope to someday participate in something like that or start something like that that's more capable of affecting, I was going to say actual change, but more like change in the physical world, as in organizations that would help ex-Muslims in difficult situations and so on. So I hope so. Beyond that, Islam is not your regular cult. It is violent, aggressive, and uses force against both their followers and non-followers. That's a whole different game, which is not compatible with functioning society. Can't help but see similarities with ASPD and Islam. Stronger by Britney Spears inspired this comment. Yeah, I don't have too much to say about this, except it's interesting how all it takes sometimes is one domino to fall and then the rest just follow. All right, the next comment. This is a two-part message. My opinion of women in Islam and leaving is actually pretty complex. Women in Islam are pretty much the most spiritual of anyone else, like having personal relationship with God. I know I did. One second. Sorry, excuse me. Like having a personal relationship with God. I know I did. I find that most women are taught a lot of interpretation BS at home. My mother used to tell me justifications of certain sexist rules and such, and I used to believe her. For example, Allah put men in charge to keep us safe and all that. I realized only when I started studying politics just how politically conservative Islam was, and the more I learned, the more I was trying to find loopholes to justify everything. I did this because my personal connection to God was as strong as ever, and I think that's a predatory tactic. Most Muslim women justify their own objectification just because these sexist rules were like an admission price for being accepted by a God they already had a connection with. That's a great point. That's very well put. Muslim feminists inherently contradict feminism and harm their sisters by attributing their feminism to Islam when it simply isn't true. That really grinds my gears when somebody says Islam was the first feminist religion. I mean, anyway. It demeans all the harm Islam has objectively done to women. I think since I've become ex-Muslim, I've found that everyone, ex-Muslim and Muslim, has still had opinions of women dictated by the gender segregation of the Middle East. I've stopped interacting with a lot of ex-Muslim content because I keep getting messages from ex-Muslim men who assume I am helpless and have no support systems, which is an honorable sentiment but still comes off as patronizing. Absolutely, please do not reach out to ex-Muslim women in that way. If they want to be reached out to, if you want to reach out as a friend, I mean, you could, but often guys have this savior complex, and please try to avoid doing that, especially if you're making them feel uncomfortable. And Muslim men thinking I'm an easy target for free personal porn. Oh, I've seen that way too often, and it's disgusting. The only place where I'm treated like a person is with other women or in general people non-Muslim backgrounds. I have interests, I have passions, and I can be masculine or feminine or androgynous when I want to be. Anyway, that's as short as I can make it. Sorry if this is too long. No, it was not too long. Thank you for sharing this with us. Let me take a look at the comments because I have kind of, I've neglected them for a little bit. Honestly, if you don't laugh, you'll cry. I agree, which is why I always try to laugh, and sometimes I try to make people laugh. Yeah, thank you, music guy. Please interact with this video. So it does help me do more of these videos in the future. What's next? One more comment. No, just a lot of jokes in the comments. Okay. I don't know if this is being sarcastic. No. That's why I love that Daniel Haqiqatchu is doing what he's doing. He ridicules Islam as woman emancipating even more than I do. So about that, I have a video that I shot pretty quickly to talk about this debate between Dania Haqiqatchu and I think her name was Safiya Sabreen, I want to say. I'm sorry, I'm just not good at remembering names. The only reason why I remember Haqiqatchu is because it rhymes with something else. And you'll watch it when it comes out soon, and it's not really a play-by-play review, but basically what I note is that it's very hard to defend these stances, and I'm upset about that because I was hoping that, you know, she doesn't call herself a feminist. She's actually kind of toxic against feminism. She's like, feminism is causing a lot of, it's like a cancer, it's causing a lot of issues and whatever. But I was hoping to see from her point of view how Islam can be the way that she claims, and she doesn't really provide much to show for it. So people like Daniel have more basis in the scripture, unfortunately, but it is what it is. And lastly, let me read this comment. I am an ex-Muslim woman living in the West in my early 20s. I don't even know if I classify as someone who left Islam. See, this is what I was talking about earlier, because I don't think I ever believed in it in the first place. Not sure if I was entirely indoctrinated hard enough, if I'm being honest. I went to Quran lessons growing up, but also my parents had strong emphasis on education at the same time. The stories I was told about Islam, even Christianity, it sounded nonsensical even at the age of 10. Jesus walking on water, Muhammad flying on a buraq. I'm lucky I come from quite a moderate family. But of course, a moderate in Islam can still be conservative too. Yes, this is something that I want to highlight, because when people say moderate Muslim, they don't realize how heavy that is. There's so much that goes on in a moderate Muslim household that is potentially problematic to children and the women and the men as well. And so just sweeping it under the rug by saying, oh, it's just a moderate, what does that actually entail? Anyway, I can't wear what I want to at all. I have to dress modestly, but not forced to wear a hijab. Can't marry a non-Muslim. Not forced to pray during the year, but only during Ramadan. Still closeted though. I just try to live my life as normally as I can. I'm not sure what to do when I want to get married though, and it's not going to be with a Muslim man. Yeah. That is a struggle, because you don't choose who you're attracted to, and you don't choose who is a good match for you. So if you could try to restrict your dating pool only to, I suppose, ex-Muslim men who are going to act Muslim for your family. If that's truly the situation that you're stuck in, then that's what you should be doing. But if you have the liberty to just meet people as you go, it's very likely that you'll meet someone who's not from a similar background to you, or not a Muslim, or not going to pretend to be Muslim, and that will cause conflict. Don't dwell on it, just try to meet people normally the way that you meet anyone else, and hope that you find your match, whatever their background is, and things will hopefully work out, or you're going to make them work out, and you're going to have family somewhere. So I wish everybody in that kind of position the best of luck. Anyway, yeah, because ex-Muslim men wear a sign that says ex-Muslim. And on that topic, because a man is an ex-Muslim man doesn't mean that he's suddenly rid of all the issues that Muslim men are plagued with, or men in general are plagued with. So don't have that presumption that an ex-Muslim man is going to be a gentleman. He's going to be totally not sexist. I mean, up until very recently, like every day, I still learn that there are sexist ideas that I have. Some of them I've been corrected on by people like Infidel Noodle, for example. Stuff that we talked about in private, not like me using my platform in a hateful way, but these realizations I didn't really have till later on, and I will continue to have. So don't use that as like a safety blanket that, oh, he's ex-Muslim, so it's fine. Just keep that in mind. There's a lot that needs to be deconstructed from. But even then, we don't wear a sign that says ex-Muslim. Unless I suppose I start selling merch that says ex-Muslim, but that's a safety concern and also a bit of a cop-out or a sellout, I guess. Yeah, so maybe we'll just masks that say I'm an ex-Muslim. No, that's just for me to wear. That's my look, and some other content creators. Anyway, yeah, so one last thing I want to ask everybody here. Do you think it'll be a good idea to have similar live streams? But first of all, I want to have one for Muslim women to join, just Muslim women, because sometimes they might feel like I'm talking about Islam the wrong way, or that I'm not getting my facts straight. I want to hear it from them. And how do you feel about having discussions between Muslim women and ex-Muslim women on this platform? Because I don't know if I see that anywhere else, and I think that's a great idea, because it doesn't. I feel like a lot of women would be more engaged if they see two women having the discussion. If it's me and some gross apologists saying, yeah, this is why women should be kept in the house or whatever, they might be engaged, they might be interested, but they're still not exactly represented by me. So what do you think of this idea of facilitating such a discussion? I wouldn't think about facilitating a discussion between a Muslim and an ex-Muslim, or Muslim man and ex-Muslim man, because there's a lot of platforms for that already. So yeah, I'm seeing some interest here. Yes, okay, that would be great. Have a stream with Muslim dudes from different sects. It's an interesting idea, but I don't think I have the time or energy for that, or I don't know if it kind of fits in the purpose of this channel. We'll see. I like that idea, but I'm apprehensive of an adversarial setup. So yeah, that's the tricky part. I would try to emphasize that it's not supposed to be a debate or an adversarial, but some kind of a discussion, the way that I try to have them with believers. But because I'm not the one having the discussion, it'll be kind of out of my hands, but I'll try to moderate, I suppose. So yeah, I guess the topic has to be very specific. Yeah, or we could just, have one of them, we can flip a coin and see one of them would start a topic, I guess. There's a few ways to do it. Good luck trying to find Muslim women who want to participate. How do you know? I mean, they could want to. What do you know about what Muslim women would want? Anyway, someone is tagging me as Apostate prophet, but that's okay. Have you ever thought about bringing an ex-Christian woman? She would have the female perspective and you would have the ex-Muslim perspective while talking to female ex-Muslims. That's an interesting combination, but like I'd have to find an ex-Muslim Christian, ex-Muslim, ex-Christian woman. Could be interesting, but I think I've had ex-Christians on the channel before. They just, come up in one of those call-in live streams. Anyway, honestly, a lot, and I feel like you don't have enough Muslims. I watch this content. I don't exactly understand, but I don't have enough Muslims watching my content. That would make sense, to be honest, because they're not the primary target, but I will maybe at some point put an invitation out there and hope that it, somebody spreads the word. Anyway, thank you everybody for joining today. This was a very productive stream, I think, and I hope that everyone who got to share their thoughts found it not just productive, but relieving as well. I'll try to add, if you can, if you're watching this later, add timestamps in the comments for me to help me segment this a bit. Otherwise, I'll have to do it later. Anyhow, thank you everybody for joining today. Stay tuned to my channel for more. Like, subscribe, all that good stuff to, help my channel out. And as always, think critically and think for yourself.